Chapter 16, New Approach. KH. Theo clenched his teeth, feeling the power behind the monkey's skill. Luckily, the monkey's height was lower than him, so the attack launched him into the air instead. This situation allowed him to maintain his balance and recovered the instant he landed on the ground. The monkey rushed forward, not giving him time to fight back. Behind, Theo regained the control of his clone and made him charge forward. Kill him! He couldn't help but shout. His loud voice forced the monkey to turn its head around, finding clone Theo thrusting his sword from behind. Kiki. The monkey simply dodged the attack before it realized something just pierced his hand. It turned out that the shout was only a distraction for the monkey. Pierce. Theo also used his skill, penetrating the monkey's skin like it was nothing. Clone Theo bent down and pulled his sword. As he did so, he took a deep breath that he had been using to gain enough strength to make another full swing. Key. Before it could even finish its last laugh, clone Theo had severed the head, and both of them quickly retreated a few steps to avoid the blood burst out of its body. Killed a Deku monkey, normal. EXP plus 38. That was close. Theo let out a long sigh. It seems I have been too complacent with the current accomplishment. I shouldn't become too proud and mess everything up. Clone Theo disappeared after handing the sword. After that, he touched the monkey's body and saw 2 cards drop from the disappearing body. Monkey Tail, F. Nutritious Ingredients. Skill, Monkey Fist, F. Effect, allow the user to naturally draw the body's energy to release a stronger punch. When he saw the 2 cards, he ignored the first one because there was no other use for Monkey Tail other than giving a healthy body. It was a common ingredient for a peaceful family who wanted to get good health, but it had no use for the current him. As for the Monkey Fist, he contemplated whether to use it on himself or wait for upgrading the clone skill. Theo's current fighting style relied on his movement. Even though he knew that skills were naturally stronger than regular movements, he had no money to buy skills or were lucky enough to find a skill like this. After a few considerations, he decided to use it. It's better to increase my prowess first before upgrading the skill. I can get more money and kill more opponents if I increase my strength after all. Theo smiled before looking at the blood on the ground. He recalled how he killed the bear, the lion, and the monkey. It's really easier to get more XP if I fight higher level monsters. However, it is also riskier. Earlier, if I didn't have my clone, I might get injured and would be forced to retreat for the day. Theo looked down with his hand on his chin. I usually get 1 to 5 XP every time I kill a monster, and it's already hard to defeat them continuously. However, I can do more now that I have become a level 20 fighter. I need to be more careful and not underestimate my opponent next time. After reflecting on his action, he continued walking to the south and decided to rest there, where he didn't smell the blood anymore. He took out his device to see the map. This map was the accumulation of the fighters who risked their lives to explore the area because the satellite was useless. Although some were using their drones, or something similar, it was still the result of their efforts. South to my direction is a slope. After that slope, I will find the area where most of the level 15 to 20 monsters reside. This is my original destination. Before he could go, he heard something ringing in his head. SSHHH. SSHHHH. It kept echoing as if it was very close. This. Theo felt that it was similar to the hissing of a snake. He looked around and found a brown snake hanging on the tree behind the one he used to rest. Without hesitation, Theo killed the snake with a single thrust of his spear. Killed a green serpent, normal. EXP plus 3. Yep, this is the usual XP I got since this snake is only a low-level snake. Theo nodded, finally seeing the normal rate he got. I only need 2 more points to reach level 21. This fast-paced but dangerous process is tempting one to keep progressing. Theo looked down and shook his head. I should meet another monster when climbing the slope, so I will level up before reaching my destination. Let's go then. He turned around and walked toward the south. He crossed the woods and found the slope not long after. Since the terrain didn't really change because the slope was very gentle, close to flat land, there shouldn't be too much adjustment needed to fight on this slope. It didn't take too long for him to see the first monster. The monster was not like what he had seen so far. It had a humanoid shape but walking with 4 feet like that of a beast. The body had a homogeneous green color. The most intriguing was the shape of its head. It looked like a human, but without eyes and other parts. Theo quickly checked the monster in the database. Name, X-humanoid. Level, 20-25. Beware of its speed and claw. He furrowed his eyebrows when he saw the description. All the monsters I've hunted so far are lower than my level. Of course, besides the rock turtle. Should I face this monster? Theo furrowed his eyebrows. The rock turtle incident may repeat in the future, so I should try fighting a higher level monster from now on. Still, it is strange to see a monster like this in front of the area consisting of level 15 to 20 monsters. Did something happen? Contemplating wouldn't help because he had no further information, so Theo ended the thought. Screw it. It's better to continue forward while being ready to run at any moment than think about this. It's not like I will venture too deep, so I think it should be fine. Theo convinced himself and summoned his clone. Unlike the previous arrangement, the real him hid with a sword in his hand instead of the spear. At the same time, his clone ran toward the monster with the spear in front. GRR. The ex-humanoid sensed his presence and leapt toward him with a speed that he had never seen before. It was even faster than Lost. Fortunately, his prediction was correct the moment he saw the simple description. He raised the spear aiming at the monster's mouth. With the spear length, it was enough for Theo to act if something happened. The ex-humanoid raised its hand that had 4 sharp and long claws. It struck the spear's blade, trying to destroy it. However, Theo managed to hold his spear as the spear's blade was undamaged. As expected from an elite rank spear, its quality is higher than your average one. Theo smiled while controlling his clone to counterattack. GRR. It picked up Theo's mutter and turned in another direction while avoiding the spear's thrust. As if it managed to locate Theo hiding behind the tree, the monster charged toward one particular tree, ready to swipe its claw. Having no choice, Theo showed himself while slashing upward. The monster quickly waved its hand, stopping Theo's blade with its claws. Crack. As one would expect, the quality was really different. One of the claws cracked with that one full swing. Theo pushed the monster back and regrouped with his clone. He swung his sword from the left while his clone thrust toward the left arm. The ex-humanoid didn't have an option other than blocking both attacks with its claws. However, the cracked claw had endured enough and snapped into 2. The monster jumped backward to assess its claw, but Theo didn't let it reset the fight. He and his clone charged forward, working together to attack the ex-humanoid. He couldn't help but remember the time where he fought together with Eric. It was easier than fighting alone. And with his clone that was under his control, the movement became even better. After all, Theo knew his weakness, the gap between his movements and his goal in every strike. This fighting style was better than any other pair because a thought could be done faster than any verbal command or physical signs. The ex-humanoid slowly got pressured from the continuous attacks. His claws fell one by one because of Theo's elite rank weapons. However, Theo thought of something more interesting and important enough to test as soon as possible. With this kind of thought, the 2 Theos purposely got blown away by the creature. The real him turned around and started running as if he intended to escape while his clone stabilized his posture. The creature obviously chose the one with his back facing him since it was undoubtedly the easiest one. It leapt to the air, planning to trounce Theo from behind. Suddenly, Clone Theo came between them and raised the spear handle so that the monster's 2 hands hit the spear instead of the real him. He used the hardness of the metal handle well and stopped the monster from 1 second. A dangerous glint flashed in real Theo's eyes as he turned around and ran back with his fastest speed. Usually, he would go around and slash the monster, taking one of its arms or something, but this time, he planned to do something different. It was something unthinkable before. The moment he arrived behind his clone, he slashed his sword horizontally while moving forward. Ha! Theo split the monster and his clone into 2 with a smile. The shortest route possible. Killed an ex-humanoid, normal. EXP plus 97. Level up. Chapter 17, Lost Lang. In Lang family's mansion, the situation wasn't peaceful either. 2 people stood in the room, one facing the other's back while the latter looked outside the window. The first person was lost. He could only look down while biting his lips. They had been standing without talking like this for 10 minutes already. In front of him was a middle-aged man with black hair. He looked at the city through the window with mysterious eyes. Can you even do something right? A cold voice echoed. This voice was like a needle piercing Lost's heart. You have one job. And you failed miserably. Lost closed his eyes as if something just squeezed his heart. There was only one reason for him to get here. It was to discuss his embarrassment after getting beaten by Theo. Not only did you fail your job, but you also got suspended. Luckily, it didn't bring so much news that would create a scandal for our company. Everything was Lost's mistake. Had he not used his skill during the fight, this wouldn't happen. In fact, he had been under house arrest for the past few days and only got called to this room today, showing how disappointed his father was. Father, that. When Lost was about to explain, his father turned around, picked up the letter on the table, and threw it as if throwing a rock. Bang. Gah. Lost spat out blood and flew to the door as if he just got hit by a boulder. That's the warning from the military. You should know that it's better to not mess around with the current government since the one standing on top is holding political power that no other presidents had ever achieved. TCH. There was no trace of sympathy to his own son after treating him like that. Only anger was visible in his expression. Lost held the letter with his shaking hands and read the first few sentences with his blurry eyes. This is the first warning signed by President Akupel for your Lang family's behavior. Due to the situation solved in a peaceful way, the matter shall be settled with this letter. Another offense will result in trial according to Law 28X about skill misconduct. Lost's focus was on his family name. This problem should have ended with Lost Lang as the culprit, but the letter addressed the Lang family as a whole. No wonder that his father was furious. He had learned that many people who usually controlled the country in the dark remained dormant for a while. They all were scared of the current president, who was a master in politics and military. He strengthened the military to suppress most dark influences that corrupted the country and defeated all the opposition politically. In front of the masses, he was just like a ray of hope in this dark country, but in front of a family like his Lang family, he was a sword that might slit their throat at any moment. However, the current president also promised them that as long as they followed the laws, he would protect them like the citizens. That was why Lang family couldn't afford to act arrogantly until the next president replaced him, albeit it would only happen in a few years. Realizing what he had brought into the family, his body trembled. Father. I am sore. What apology? I don't need your apology. Why can't you be like your brother? He has elevated our face in front of the world, but you acted like SHT. He looked down and released his killing intent. Lost started to pant, gasping for air. It was as if he was in front of a beast that looked at him like an already dead prey. You couldn't even take care of an orphan who had no monetary support and skill. I have hired many tutors to teach you, but you couldn't defeat someone who had no training like that. Lost looked away with a pained expression. He was ashamed of himself and had no right to word to speak. However, the memory of his father was filled with bad things. Every time they met, he always compared him to his brother and ended up bad-mouthing him the whole time. Under this kind of pressure, he began to do things in his own way, trying to show him that he could do it. When he succeeded once, what did he get? Nothing other than a cold gaze from his father. Instead, he only told him, "You have finally done right once. If only you are like your big brother, you can do it more." He just wanted a bit of recognition from his family, especially the only parent he had, his father. Yet, his father never looked at his way. "I would like to apologize for my blunder, father." Lost chose to endure it a bit longer. As long as he took care of Theo after this, it should be enough to at least force his father to look his way, or so what he believed. After apologizing, he turned around. His father would just scold him if he stayed any longer, so it was better to produce the result first. "You are really useless. If only one apology is enough." The father snorted. He walked toward his desk and lowered his head. Next to his right hand was a ripped envelope from the government that held that imminent warning letter. Just thinking about it made him angry. "You are useless. If you can't do anything, just finish your education and get married. You still have your worth as a marriage tool to expand the family. Sacrifice yourself for the family. That's your only use." Lost's body was trembling. People say words could hurt you more than you think, and Lost believed it was right at this moment. The acid gas in his stomach flowed up, making him want to puke. The blood rushed into his head as veins bulged on his forehead. He had endured so many things for as long as he remembered. Yet, the moment he heard his father considered him as a tool instead of a son or at least a human being, Lost reached his breaking point. He turned around and walked toward his father. "Father." Lost felt like his heart got grasped. However, he braced himself to look at his father's eyes and said while pressing his chest. His breathing started getting rough. I want to ask you. Do you know what is the name of the tallest mountain in the world? Why are you even asking that idiotic question? It's obviously Mount Everest. Then, do you know the second tallest mountain in the world? That question was unexpected, and the answer never came out of his father's mouth. He only turned around and returned to the window, ignoring that question. I want to ask another question. What is the deepest trench in the world? His father fell silent for a minute before opening his mouth. Mariana Trench. Then, what is the second deepest trench in the world? Just like before, his father had no answer. It wrenched his heart even more. It's Tonga Trench. Lost slammed the table while looking at his father. His glare filled with unwillingness and hatred. You don't know, don't you? You always compared me to brother and never paid attention to my feelings. You kept saying this was all for my good, but that was only you forcing your own ideal. That's right. My brother is number one. And the number one stands out and gets super well known. What about me? Do you even remember your son's name? When was the last time you called me by my name? Do you even remember that? When? It was already a decade ago. You want that map, right? I will bring it to you. I will show it to you that there will be a time silver will become more expensive than gold. Lost turned around, pushed the door and left the room. However, his father simply stood still without even turning back or resolving the problem. From the door, a middle-aged man with a butler suit slowly walked toward the room while glancing over the boy who just left the room. Master. Young Master Lost. Gee. The father finally turned around with a cold gaze. His eyes were filled with killing intent as if telling him to shut up. I have overstepped my bounds. The butler bowed his head politely and stopped prying what Lost's father really thought. He turned around and proceeded to leave the room, but he heard another sentence. Investigate Theo Griffith once again and take care of that useless thing, subordinates. The butler paused for a few seconds as if falling into deep thought. He bowed his head and said, I understand. The door was shut, leaving him alone in the room. Unbeknownst to both Lost and the butler, his right fist that was covered by the table was clenched too tight until blood dripped from it. Useless thing. Meanwhile, just like how Lost's hand was covered in blood, Theo also had a similar situation. His body and clothes were red. All that color came from the blood of the monster that just got split into two by a girl. Sitting on the ground dyed with red blood and leaning his back on a tree behind him, he looked at her face behind his mask and quickly recognized who she was. The person who saved him just now was someone he had met in the school. She was Aaliyah Aelaric. Chapter 18, Saved. After killing the ex-humanoid, Theo continued his journey to the next area. He killed a few monsters and grabbed all the loot he found on the way. When lunch came, he went to a safe place to have lunch. He grabbed the sandwich he bought in the morning while checking his status. Status, normal. Level, 21. EXP, 223-267. Blessing, God of Mischief. Skill, Pierce, F, Clone, F, Monkey Fist, F, 7 slots remaining. Attributes, Strength 35, Endurance 15, Agility 24, Vitality 15, Magic. Power 30. Free attribute points, 0. After defeating the ex-humanoid, he realized how much he relied on his clone. And using a clone required magic power. With his current fighting style, he wouldn't have enough magic power to continue until sunset, so he chose to spend all the attribute points he got on magic power. With the additional magic power, even though he still had no confidence, he should be able to get by had he used the clone conservatively. It's really hard to maintain two different attributes. Theo furrowed his eyebrows while letting out a long sigh. Most people don't need a huge amount of magic power because they usually fight in the front line. Using skill is necessary, but not the most important. However, I need the clone, which happens to take a toll on me. He took out the loot he got from the monsters he met earlier. Bear fur, F. Good materials for clothing. Ex-humanoid claw, F. A hard material that could be used to strengthen a weapon when it's forged. Wilo bird great talon, F. A good-looking material for house decoration. Theo fell silent when he looked at these three items aside from the monkey tail. Everything has been digitalized and I can sell these digitally. However, I can only sell cheaper because of the commission I need to pay for selling it, so most hunters, including me, prefer the traditional way of trading since it gives me more money. People sold almost everything on the internet, but they also paid a significant charge for the safety of their items. And even though the items would also be delivered to your home with drones, it just drained their money even further. That was why the hunters, usually newbies, preferred the traditional way because they could get at least 20% more. Besides, the transfer wasn't recorded, so they didn't need to pay taxes since the government didn't know about it. That was Theo's reason for trading with the old man. Well, I like the fact that my name or bank account is not known by the other party when doing the SWIFT transfer. This way, I can keep this second identity for a little longer, which will benefit me in the long run. Let's see. If I sell these 4 items to the traditional market, I should be able to get around 3,000 zills, while if I go for the Skylink route, I will only get 2,500 zills. Skylink was the name of the biggest network on the internet that connected everyone in the world. They controlled almost everything, starting from search engines, e-commerce, and any other things that could be found on the internet. They had the help of governments worldwide because their network also helped them monitor the people to get a tax record. Well, I don't plan to do it the traditional way forever. I will start using Skylink if my situation is a bit better. Theo let out a long sigh. Anyway, rather than feeling down about this trivial stuff, I need to put more effort in killing monsters today. I should be able to get 6,000 zills at this pace. He finished his lunch and rose from the ground, ready to look for another monster. However, he quickly hid behind a tree when he heard something moving in the bushes. He took a peek and found 2 people crawling behind the bushes as if they feared something around the area. He almost forgot the fact that this place was often filled with people. He quickly reached out the mask in his bag and put it on, not wanting to be recognized by someone. Theo avoided this type of trouble, so he quickly went around them to stay away from their problem. Suddenly, he found himself getting entangled in something that was not supposed to be here. He thought by going around the 2 people, he would be able to go on his way. But to think that the monster had yet to arrive and made its appearance in front of Theo. Theo drew a gasp and took a step back when he saw a blood-red bat flying in front of him. He had no knowledge about the bat, but he knew that the bat was not supposed to be in this area. The wingspan of this bat alone was 10 feet and the fangs on its mouth looked sharp enough to shred him into pieces instead of sucking his blood. The bat continued on its way, flying straight toward Theo. Theo threw himself to the left, but the bat was too fast. With this timing, the bat would obviously hit him. In the last second, he managed to put up his spear on the front, stopping the bat's charge. The impact hit harder than he expected. Rolling a few times on the ground, he kept his mind calm and pushed hard with his hand, launching him to the air to stabilize his body and adjust his position. Before the bat turned around, he took out his device to check the bat's identity. Name: blood-sucking bat. Level: 51-60. Theo blinked his eyes a few times. As he expected, the monster wasn't supposed to be here. He found that the bat had turned around and made the same turn for himself before running as fast as he could. Unfortunately, the bat caught up in an instant and opened its jaw, trying to his shoulders with those sharp teeth. Theo spun his body and protected himself with the spear, but the bat's strength was far higher than he expected. It pinned him to the ground with its 2 teeth almost hitting his shoulder. I won't die. He clenched his teeth and summoned his clone. The moment Clone Theo appeared, he drew the sword in Theo's waist before swinging upward. Sensing the danger with that sword, the bat flew several feet back while glaring at the 2 Theos. Should I fight the bat? I once killed a rock turtle. Their level is about the same, so. Theo shook his head. I shouldn't be too naive. Even the god of mischief told me how lucky I was. I should run. Theo decided not to take the risk. He believed that those who could win against the bat were only protagonists in stories or abnormal people. At the very least, he was neither of the 2. A normal person followed the most logical option. And that option was run. The 2 Theos turned around and ran away. The bat chased both of them, but its movement was more inclined to the real Theo. Theo found a giant boulder in front of him and went around it without hesitation. The bat surely couldn't recognize him, so he quickly traded places with his clone. But Theo forgot one thing. The bat let out its ultrasonic sound and followed the movement behind the rock. After locking on the real Theo, the bat increased its speed, trying to hunt him down like earlier. Theo glanced back with a smile. I have expected that you won't get tricked by this. Suddenly, Clone Theo appeared next to the bat, swinging his sword down. The bat didn't even look at him and simply opened its mouth. A high-pitched voice came out, disturbing Theo's brainwave. His eardrums were about to burst from that sound. But more importantly, Clone Theo stopped and dropped the weapon because Theo lost control of it when taking the full brunt of the sound wave. Not good. Theo used his spear to block the charge, but the same thing repeated. He was launched, rolled on the ground, and hit a tree with his back. Gah! He spat a mouthful of blood while looking at the bat that had yet to stop its charge. I was truly lucky back then. Theo finally felt the impact of those words, albeit it was on his last moment. It seems this is the end. Although he knew that he would die at this point since his body refused to move, he still managed to set his spear's butt on the ground and raised it so the bat would die when it tried to kill him. Suddenly, the most unexpected thing happened. The bat let out a sound and its eyes looked hollow. The body began to separate from each other, perfectly in the middle. The blood spurted out following the movement of the body, which dyed Theo in red. The ground, his clothes, and his spear were not spared. He could see a figure after the bat passed his body. Even though his vision was red, he could recognize who just killed the bat and saved him. Aaliyah Aelaric. Chapter 19, Reason. It might be due to the effect of her skill, but the residual particles still lingered around her body, turning her yellow hair into gold. On her hand was a thin sword. The handle was gold, but the blade was red. She showed no emotion, but she looked not cold and aloof. Their eyes intertwined and both of them surprisingly recognized each other. Theo aside, Aaliyah was a famous figure whether in the school or public. It wasn't possible for someone not to recognize her. However, he couldn't understand why Aaliyah acted as if she had met him. You are the one I have been searching for. A smile appeared on her serious face before the atmosphere itself had gotten calmer. She approached him and bent down. Theo sweat dripped. A powerful family like the Aelaric family would surely have a way to check his identity, so he should avoid leaving any evidence about his real identity. He adjusted his voice to let it sound a bit deeper than his actual voice. You know me. Aaliyah felt a weird sensation when he spoke. Since she had an agenda with him, she decided to ignore it and said, yes. The one who killed a rock turtle despite being a normal rank. I was too occupied back then and let one of the rock turtles escape. When I chased it, the only thing I found was just the aftermath. After a few investigations, I found out that you were the one who killed it. Theo's heart skipped a beat as he began to panic. He grumbled inwardly, what should I do? Did I get found out? There shouldn't be surveillance cameras on this side, but she could find it was me. Did someone inform her about me? No, her influence was enough for her to get an answer from the blacksmiths all over the base. The old man must have told her about me. As he put too much thought into the matter, Aaliyah continued. It turns out that my second blunder leads me to you. This must be fate. Seeing your body and vibe, you should be a high school student like me. I can't pinpoint which grade you are though. Theo fell silent. It seems the situation is still under control. At the very least, she hasn't known my identity yet. In that case, I should use it to my advantage. Suddenly, Theo looked away, refusing to answer. You. I just saved you, but you couldn't even say thanks. She pouted before adding. Is what I want to say, but since this is my blunder, I should apologize to you. She politely bowed her head. I am sorry for this blunder and the previous mistake. Theo blinked his eyes a few times, not believing what he just heard. With her status, the matter could be solved with just a word. However, the person in question lowered her head to apologize. He had no choice other than to say, it's fine. Since you saved my life, we can call it even. Though, another thought appeared in his mind. How many blunders are you going to make despite being known as a genius? He could take advantage of the situation, but it would just entangle him with her matter, so he decided to draw a line to prevent any troublesome things from happening. But I can't leave it like this. I need to compensate you in one way or another. Do you need anything? She asked. Theo thought for a moment. He might be able to get a high-level weapon with her background, but he felt that it wouldn't be safe for his identity. There was one way to settle it in an instant. Money. Aaliyah blinked her eyes a few times as if she couldn't believe what she heard. I don't know whether you are greedy or foolish. Well, I already said it, so I wouldn't take it back. What she meant by greedy was because he said money without a specific amount. In other words, how much she would give to him would depend on her discretion. How bad she felt for almost killing him twice. At the same time, Theo could be considered foolish. It was the perfect chance to get something expensive. Even if he didn't need it, he could sell it. Even if it was a bit cheaper than the original price, it was still a fortune for a poor person like him. Little did she know the true reason Theo asked for money was so that no one could track him. The swift transfer wouldn't have the record, making it hard to find his real identity. Give me your Skylink. She took out a cylindrical device called Skylink. Theo also took out his and put it closer to hers. Her Skylink then projected a blue screen where she put the amount she wanted to transfer. By the way, I don't know your name. She took a quick glance at his face to get his name, but to no avail. Theo refused to give his personal information. But since the situation was him getting saved and got money from her, he decided to give his alias. Joker. PFFD. An alias. Are you a middle schooler? She laughed while saying, I am sorry. Haha. I didn't mean to make fun of you. Still, hiding your identity, huh? No wonder you want money instead of other things. Theo remained silent, not wanting to rebuke her or whatsoever. Say. Do you need a party or something? I don't have anyone with me, so how about we make a party? You are far stronger than me. I am not qualified to be your party member. Besides, if you allowed a bat like that escaped with your current strength, can you? Never mind. I don't want to be rude. Theo shook his head. My bad. I encountered a flock of blood-sucking bats. I managed to kill 49 of them, but one of them got past me, so I do feel sorry. She sighed. When Theo heard that she fought that many bats alone, he was impressed. The difference of level between the bats and Aaliyah might be far, but the situation changed when she encountered so many bats at once. It was very hard to keep the bats in one place, so letting only one pass her could be considered amazing instead. He scratched the back of his head. Sorry. I don't mean to mock you, but I have my own situation. That's why I can't join your party. That's a shame. And I couldn't understand why you invited me to your party. When I first heard about you, I noticed that you were special. You must have leveled up a few times after killing the rock turtle, so I knew that you were weak at that time. I mean, take a look at your current situation and I can predict your previous level. Not the exact level though. She shrugged. Is that the reason? Theo narrowed his eyes. I am not unique. Just a bit lucky. If I were to fight the turtle again, I would lose 10 out of 10. Look. This is the second reason. You knew your weakness well, but instead of cowering, you kept improving. I could see how you still pointed your spear despite knowing that you would have died with that last charge. She smiled. Theo looked down. It was just his last attempt and he never expected anything from it. To think it could be seen that way. I have a few more reasons, but the most important one is to ask you to join my party. I feel that you are someone worth grooming. I want to teach you myself. You mean like your student? Nope. I will be your mentor. There will be a global competition this year. It requires a party of 6 to join. And each grade will need to send 2 people to participate. For now. My current candidate is Sin Raskaka and my friend. I still need to search for 3 additional members. With how polite you are, you must be a junior. She narrowed her eyes, looking at him up and down. The school hasn't spread the news yet, but I think they will do something soon, so don't spread it, okay? Well, I will know your identity that way anyway, so your choice. By the way, are you a first-year or second-year student? Theo remained silent. Since you don't want to answer, it's fine. But I already know that you are a student, my junior on top of that. Don't make me catch you. She grinned. How sharp is this woman? Theo's eyebrows twitched. He never expected that the way he talked could be a clue as well. It was normal to be polite to your senior in school or even in general. Aaliyah knew this too well and gathered all the clues she got before coming to a conclusion. Foo-foo. And don't try to drop out or escape, I will know it is you. She threatened him. I will drag you back. Even if you are not chosen, I will have a backup ready. Theo looked at her face helplessly. It seems I need to lay low for the time being. Luckily, Lost is suspended while Eric and Shella have died. I can take a breather from bullying. She then stood up and stretched her hand. Theo reached her hand and rose from the ground. Then, I think I need to go now. I am looking forward to our next meeting. She waved her hand and turned around. Don't forget to take a bath. You reek of blood. Just like that, Aaliyah disappeared from his vision. What should I do now? Theo facepalmed. Chapter 20, What? After seeing how Aaliyah just came and left, he was stunned. The bat's corpse was there because Aaliyah didn't touch it or probably forgot to touch it. Ugh. I can't turn it into a card because only the one who kills it is qualified to do so. Theo scratched the back of his head. Never mind. I should search for a place to clean my mask first. The image of the big boulder flashed in his mind and he decided to go there. However, the doubt that Aaliyah left the area remained in his heart, so he took out a water bottle and poured it directly onto his mask. Still, what the heck was that? Theo muttered. How could her sense be so sharp? I had done all the things I could think of to hide my identity, but she somehow managed to get it right. Ah, Theo could smell it clearly, the smell of trouble, especially in the school. In fact, Aaliyah might be a more troublesome person than Lost. He reached out his device and saw his balance. ID, 280,104,977,610. Name, Theodore Griffith. Balance, 101,600 zil. Seriously? She gave me 100,000 zils in one go? Theo was taken aback. Even if she needed to compensate him, this was far from what he expected. I thought she would give 10,000 or so. But I think I can move to a new apartment with this money, allowing me to train with my clone effectively. Besides, it's not like I can buy expensive items because there is a chance she realizes it's me. Deciding to buy something that wouldn't be related to school or fighting, Theo put his device carefully on his bag. Anyway, I should be able to rent a nice one for 30,000 zils. I can't spend more than that since I need to save money in case I need it in the future. Need to be smart with money. Theo sighed. After thinking for a while, he rose from the ground and looked around, choosing a direction to go. In the end, he set the spear's butt on the ground and let it drop. That way, huh? Theo looked at where the bat died. Before anything could happen, he quickly slipped past the corpse and continued his journey. I should be able to fight 3 or 4 more. In other words, aside from the 100,000 zils, I can earn around 6,000 zils a day with my current ability. Theo looked down, calculating his earning. His fighting ability would surely go up along with his level, so he would surely make more and more money in the future. For my future. If I am strong enough and have saved up a lot of money, I can search for my brother. Theo nodded with a smile. His spirit went up as he was eager to fight more. He strolled around the woods while looking for a monster. Due to the public holiday, it became harder to look for a monster because people used their time to hunt. It took him 10 minutes just to find one. The monster had a body figure like that of a bear. Yet, the fur covered only its back. Theo could see abs on the chest and stomach area with the same build as a human. The arms were slightly longer but thinner than a bear's, but the strength shouldn't be that much of a difference. When the monster turned around as their eyes intertwined, Theo summoned his clone and handed the sword, letting the clone fight the monster alone. The monster took the clone head-on. Seeing that its attention had been taken, Theo quickly pointed out his device to check what kind of monster he fought. Name, Strugel Bear. Level, 16-20. It has the same constitution as a bear, but it sacrifices its power for speed. I see. I need to be conscious of its speed. Theo's expression turned serious as he jumped forward with his spear in front. When the bear saw Theo's sudden emergence from behind his clone, it raised its right paw, sweeping horizontally. Theo took a quick look at its size and speed and knew that one hit was all it needed to crush his skull. Clone Theo quickly anticipated the movement and slashed the bear's paw, albeit he couldn't block or avoid the one coming from the opposite direction. Just like his prediction, the power of the bear crushed his organ. In fact, this bear was more dangerous than a normal bear he found earlier. Because of the speed, the momentum increased, turning the bear's swipe to another level. If this were the real him, he would be severely injured. Luckily, it was his clone that simply disappeared. Without the right paw and the other palm was down, Theo took this perfect opportunity and thrust his spear. He didn't forget to use the skill in which he spun the spear with a kind of special wrist movement to increase the penetration power, piercing the bear's head. Roar! The bear let out a small groan before it fell to the ground. Killed a Strugel bear. EXP plus 43. Theo slowly pulled off his spear so the blood didn't spurt. Huffed. He let out a sigh of relief, retracted his clone, and touched the monster's head. The monster turned into particles, leaving behind a card. Skill, Sweeping Edge, F. Effect, using the power in the lower body to boost the strength of the palm to create a strong swipe. Theo narrowed his eyes and muttered, I already have the monkey fist, hence I don't think I need another one of the same type for the time being. Yeah, I will keep this skill card and use it to upgrade my clone, my main skill. He put the card inside his bag and prepared to continue his journey. At the same time, a bit further away on his left spotted a person running away from a monster. Crack. Pant. Pant. Cracking noises from the dried leaves on the ground and the panting of someone echoed in Theo's ears. Ah! A feminine voice resounded in his ears as he turned around, finding someone who ran with a horrible expression. Behind him was a wolf. It had blue fur on top and white fur on the other half. Meanwhile, the person had short pink hair, tiny but cute stature, and a small and pretty face. She wore a white shirt and black short pants. Even though the person looked out of breath, his speed was far faster than Theo's. Help me. Hearing that shout, he had a conflicted mind. On one hand, his mission was to kill all corrupted people who abandoned people. Although he didn't mind using the same method to rise to the top, he just felt it was a bit wrong. On the other hand, there was an unspoken rule that those who came here shouldn't interfere with each other since so many people always argued that they stole their kill despite having helped them. This turned worse when the only person who could claim the monster was the killer. Most people only trusted their own party for this, so Theo planned to do the same. When he saw the person try to go to him, Theo ultimately chose to avoid helping that person. Even the person in front of him was a super beauty. If she would endanger him, why would he even save her? Unfortunately, reality wouldn't always go according to the expectation. She stepped a bit deeper and jumped to the side as if reacting to Theo's movement. Theo widened his eyes and dodged it again before starting to run from the wolf as well. Wait a minute. Please help me. You get into the trouble yourself. Solve it yourself. Theo clicked his tongue. I can't beat the wolf. She followed him. Due to her speed, she managed to catch up with Theo a few times, but the latter always slipped past her. The wolf kept charging at them because she followed him. Suddenly, the same giant boulder he passed earlier came into his vision. There it is. Why is this boulder always appearing in my life today? Anyway, I should be able to shake her off with this boulder. Theo thought and went around the boulder. He summoned his clone to continue while he hid behind the boulder. However, his expectation once again got betrayed. The female seemed to know him hiding behind the boulder while the one running was a fake. She stomped her foot on the ground, used it to stop his momentum and leapt toward Theo. What? Theo never expected this and instinctively tried to run, but the latter already clung to him. It was at this time that Theo realized he just screwed up a big time. He could feel something on his back, but not on the upper part, but on the lower part. People said that once is happenstance. Twice is coincidence. 3 times is action. The first time was failing to dodge. The second time was when she didn't get tricked by his clone. And this was the third time. She is a he. Theo widened his eyes and turned around as the wolf leapt into the air. He clenched his fist and threw a punch from the side with the monkey punch, blasting the wolf to the boulder. Wadati. Chapter 21, Feral Hilbert. Despite the shock, Theo still managed to control his clone, having it throw the spear while heading back with the sword. This decision came due to this girl. Guy's grasp. Even if he shook him off, there was no way that the brat would leave him alone. What are you doing? You should handle this problem yourself. Do you want to kill me? Even so, the calm was nowhere enough to stop him from complaining. I just wanted to be a man, but then I realized I couldn't kill this guy. Please help me. I will pay you handsomely. This is not about payment. Theo clicked his tongue when he saw the wolf had recovered and leapt at him again. Clone Theo appeared between the two, blocking the wolf's charge. He planned to end this fight in one attack due to a few reasons. First, his stature was like a middle school student, so there was no way he could come here in a normal way. Either he sneaked out or his influence was big enough to deal with the guards. If it was the former, he had enough confidence in throwing this guy off. As for the second, it was nothing but trouble. With that kind of background, there should be a few people protecting him. Even if they were not here right now, they would surely arrive sooner or later. Theo didn't want and couldn't afford to deal with this kind of person. The thought of them watching from afar alone already scared him, as he had no ability yet to clash with them head-on. Secondly, as he said earlier, it wasn't about payment. He couldn't afford to lose his life, so no chance would he play with his life just for money. He had many plans in the future that could bring him money, so risking his life here was nothing but a foolish decision. Last but not least was this guy. He couldn't understand his intention at all. There was no telling that this guy purposely aimed his life or just coincidentally ran to his side. Hence, Theo chose the optimal decision, fleeing as soon as possible. Roar. Luckily, the wolf opened the jaw wider than the previous time, trying to rip clone Theo into pieces. Theo used this chance to pierce his spear through his clone and ended up perforating the wolf's head. Killed a forest wolf. EXP plus 43. The clone disappeared as Theo caught the sword, sheeing it back. Get off me. Theo shook him off. The mysterious trap fell on his butt, looking at Theo with a weird look. You are so cool. Can I call you big brother? No, please. I don't want to have a nightmare. Theo snorted, ignoring him. Normally, people would surely consider this guy as a girl because of his cute face, but Theo simply didn't care about gender. Aaliyah could become the strongest in the academy not because she was a woman but due to her strength. You are so cool. Using the illusion to kill the wolf in one hit. I admire you. Instead of paying attention to him, Theo quickly turned around, ready to leap. However, this guy seemed to be faster than he expected. He already clung on his back again before Theo could flee. What are you doing? Theo really wanted to kill this guy, but with all his assumptions about this guy, it was better not to act impulsively no matter how heavy the burden he needed to endure. I haven't paid you. According to my father, a man should fulfill his promise. So. He reached his pocket while saying, I will give you something. Theo remembered what he said earlier. The promise never actually came into his mind, but it turned out that the other party took it seriously. Where did I put it? He tried to search all his pockets before remembering something. Theo's eyebrows twitched as he believed that the guy lost it. This would always happen when he acted like this. On the contrary, the guy's eyes brightened as he slowly reached a palm-sized card inside his shirt. The guy's hand slipped inside from the collar, making it look even more seductive. If it was for someone else. This is it. The guy handed the card to Theo. Skill, Magic Bullet, E. Effect, summon up to 10 magic bullets. Theo widened his eyes, seeing an E-rank skill for the first time. He wanted to take it, but this skill card just proved his claim about this guy's identity. The big influence behind him made Theo hesitate. Ah, Big Brother doesn't want this skill. The guy pouted before remembering one basic courtesy. Oh, is it because I am a stranger? I should introduce myself first. I am Cyril Hilbert. Nice to meet you. Theo still failed to see his intention. This guy was earnest, but somehow all of it felt wrong. I have a blessing that allows me to find you. I can't really tell you the specific blessing though. I didn't want to die, so I could only ask Big Brother's help. Because I endangered your life, I should compensate you. That's why. Please take it, Big Brother. How do you know about my illusion? Theo asked. Since Cyril had yet to know the truth about the fact that his illusion was a clone, he didn't want to give the information away like how. Cyril avoided talking about his blessing. It's related to my blessing. Theo thought, should I grab it? I don't know this person even among the riches. Even though Magic Bullet is not a rare skill among E-rank skills, he might recognize me if I use this skill. Still, this guy is small like a middle schooler, so I think I am safe for the time being. I mean, it's not like he can find me in school. The only possible place he can find me is this haven. I guess I should take it. After contemplating the pros and cons, Theo reached the card, making Cyril even happier. Theo instantly took the card after thinking that Cyril wouldn't let him escape without it, so before his subordinate came, he needed to get the card and escape. When he was about to reach the card, a voice resounded in their ears as Theo instinctively turned around. There you are. He saw Cyril handing Theo a skill card and misunderstood him, thinking that Theo forced Cyril to hand over his possessions. You bastard. As expected, I was too late. Theo gritted his teeth while looking at this middle-aged man. He had spiky yellow hair and wore a black suit. His muscular body already gave him enough information for Theo to know that this punch would severely injure him if not killing him. However, Viral's instincts seemed to be better and his soft heart moved his body, coming between Theo and the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man widened his eyes, stomped the ground to stop his movement, and shouted, "What are you going to raise your hand against me?" Viral glared at him with a cold gaze. "No." "Then, are you going to raise your hand to the one who saved my life?" "Saved?" The middle-aged frowned and found the wolf's body that was hidden behind the boulder. He didn't see it earlier, resulting in him misunderstanding the whole situation. After seeing the hole in the wolf's head, he finally understood the situation. "I apologize. I have misunderstood the situation." "Good." Viral nodded and turned around, forcing the skill card to Theo's hand. "I am sorry that the situation has become like this." Theo had no word to say, simply because he had no idea what to say. "You." The middle-aged man glared at Theo hatefully. "I won't let you get our young master." No, what did you say earlier?" Theo's face turned sour, not understanding what this guy said. Did he say it without considering their gender? Anyway, let's go back. Viral let out a long sigh. "That's right. Young master. Why did you suddenly disappear earlier? I was about to kill myself if I found you having injuries to redeem myself." The middle-aged man shouted before grabbing Viral's waist and carrying him like baggage. "Wait a minute. I can walk. Let me go." Viral struggled to free himself but to no avail. "I won't let you go away again, young master." "Ugh." Viral looked down with a sad expression. However, he forced a smile while waving his hand. "Brother, let's meet again in the future." Theo couldn't react as everything happened ridiculously fast. "What just happened?" Theo muttered. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man's expression turned serious as he asked, "What are you planning to do, young master? I don't believe you would approach someone like him without reasons." "Ah, you found out." Viral scratched the back of his head. "Aaliyah Aelaric is interested in him. You know about my blessing, right? I somehow overheard their conversation earlier, so I chose to give that skill card to him. So, you can narrow down your search." Viral made a big smile. "He is a weapon user, but I don't know if he is a vanguard or not after seeing his clone or illusion. In other words, he has enough magic power to use magic. A weapon user who uses magic, especially a magic bullet, is rare. The magic bullet will help me narrow the search by a large margin. Aaliyah might have seen something in him that we haven't seen yet. After all, she is the granddaughter of Nart Aelaric, the one who is famous due to his eyes of talent. She inherits his genes after all." "I see. No wonder you are so interested in him. But it doesn't mean that I won't report what you did, okay? You will need to find an excuse because master, your father will surely not accept what you said earlier." Ugh. Chapter 22, Grand Gaia. Magic Bullet. A glowing blue-colored ball appeared on Theo's hand. Its size was slightly bigger than a human head. According to what the skill taught him, he should be able to split them into 10, albeit when he first split it into 2, the ball exploded due to the unstable flow. It turned out that there was another reason why a skill had different grades. Not only their strength increased, but the requirement to master the skill also increased. In the end, he chose to train it later while using this skill to blast the opponent's head like what he was doing right now. The ball flew toward the monster he currently faced, leaving a trail in the form of blue light as if the ball never left and instead released some sort of beam. Without having enough energy, the monster died with half of its head destroyed. As expected from an E-rank skill, the power is extraordinary. Theo shook his head helplessly, knowing why those rich people could become stronger quickly. He thought 4 monsters would be his limit during this expedition, but Magic Bullet just increased his efficiency by 50%. He touched the monster's head, leaving nothing for him to sell. "I should go back right now." Killed a Starling Panther. EXP plus 68. Level up. Status, normal. Level, 24. EXP, 13,330 seconds. Blessing, God of Mischief. Skill, Pierce, F, Clone, F, Monkey Fist, F, Magic Bullet, E, 6 slots remaining. Attributes, Strength 37, Endurance 16, Agility 25, Vitality 16, Magic Power 35. Free attribute points, 5. After getting the Magic Bullet and realizing its true worth, Theo had significantly adjusted his attributes to increase the amount of his magic power so he could continue to fight a bit longer. The result was extraordinary since he could level up 4 times in just one day. Had he gotten the magic bullet in the morning, he would have reached level 25. No, I shouldn't be too greedy. Theo shook his head and increased every attribute 1 point. Meeting those two was like falling straight down without protective equipment. The time needed was significantly reduced, but it kept me between life and death. Sigh. Theo looked at the orange sky, ready to return. He sheathed the sword and carried the spear on his back as he headed straight to the base. Surprisingly, it didn't take too long before he reached the base. He had carefully memorized the path and went around as soon as he met any monsters. After returning to the base, he quickly sold everything in his possession to a few merchants so that no one could track him. It was a basic deception move but pretty effective. While looking at his bank account, he couldn't contain his grin. ID, 280,104,977,610. Name, Theodore Griffith. Balance, 107,900 zil. When I am stronger, I will get more and more every trip. At that time, I will surely hire the best person to find my brother. Theo muttered. As soon as he returned to the other side, he made a few turns where the cameras couldn't find him. He took off his mask and robe, heading home with his true appearance. I am tired, so I won't practice tonight. It's not that I want to slack, but I want to prepare myself to buy a bigger apartment tomorrow so I can train all I want. He convinced himself that he would go to a housing company to buy an apartment. As soon as he entered his apartment, he had no other to do than take a shower and sleep. The night passed in an instant. Ring. 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 The alarm woke Theo up because the light never illuminated the dark alley he lived in. He let out a groan as he rose from the bed and headed to the school. When he arrived at school, 3 people were missing. Yeah, they were lost: Eric and Shella. The couple had died and the school wouldn't participate in the investigation because everything could happen in the Haven. Unless you had a big daddy, no one would search for you, so the secret shouldn't come to light. Even if the Lang family suspected him, he simply needed to play dumb. They might kill him on the other side, albeit everything would be solved with his other identity. He took a seat and saw the teacher coming in with a serious but tired face. All right. I need to bring up an important topic for all of you. This has been in the talk between teachers and the student council for quite a while. To put it simply, our school has been granted the opportunity to participate in a big competition. The teacher explained uninterestedly. May we know what the competition is, teacher? And why do you explain it today? A student raised her hand and asked. The answer came in the form of another question. Do any of you know about the Grand Gaia? Half of the students dropped their jaw, while some seemed to have no idea. Teacher. Is this a new competition that the government created? Another student, who looked unsurprised, asked. Nope. You must haven't read international news, so. Unfortunately for me, I need a bit more effort to explain it to you. The teacher sighed, treating it as a chore. Grand Gaia is an international contest where you can compete against international participants. According to the current news, there are a total of 150 countries, including us. We have a chance to participate in this competition? A student covered her mouth as her comment turned the class into an uproar. The teacher slammed the table while glaring at them. If you want to make my life harder, you can go outside right now. You may ask questions, but I don't like to wait until all of you fall silent. The moment they heard it, they quickly closed their mouths, not wanting to offend their teacher. Good. The teacher nodded and continued. First thing you need to know is the team composition. It's a group of 6. Each grade will send 2 participants, so 2 out of 1,000 first-year students will participate. He slammed the table with both fists. Now, let's talk about the details. Chapter 23, Training. First, there will be a training camp for all of you. This will be joint training for all grades for 6 months to see who will join the competition. The training will be held on the other side, so I can't give you another hint because the instructors will be in charge of everything related to your training. Any questions? The students looked at each other and shook their heads. The teacher then continued. The second thing is the requirements. Normally, you don't need to do this during your first year, but the competition changes everything. The school allows you to join one of the temples. The temples? Are you sure, teacher? Is this a special exception? A student asked. Then a small quiz. Give me all the names of the temples. Vanguard Temple, Magic Temple, and Assassin Temple. Yes. Vanguard Temple is basically the home of weapons. You can buy weapons from swords to guns along with a respective skill for a certain price. The Vanguard Temple will give you an identity according to the job you want. I won't explain the benefit of becoming one of them, so have their staff explain it to you. There are 4 jobs you can get there: Knight, Fighter, Magic Warrior, and Ranger. Have them explained this as well. He paused and looked at the students. Who wants to tell us about the Magic Temple? One of the students raised his hand. Magic Temple is similar to that of Vanguard Temple, but for those who use magic. They have 4 famous jobs: Magician, Healer, Enchanter, and Summoner. Good and short enough. The teacher then turned to another student and pointed at him. You. Tell us about the Assassin Temple. Assassin Temple is different from the other 2. Their jobs are more specialized, with 3 big occupations: Scout, Assassin, and Illusionist. As the name implies, Scout is focused on looking around the area. The Assassin is to kill the enemy while the group distracts the monster, while Illusionist is similar to a magician, but they are. Alright. You stop right now. I don't want to hear the full explanation. The temples can explain it better. The teacher stopped his ambitious answer and moved on from the topic. Anyway, your occupation will also be in consideration for picking the team. After all, it's not like we can choose 6 magicians to participate. Is there a time limit for this, teacher? Yes. The school allows you a day off tomorrow. You must go to the temple and get yourself a job. With the influx of people and the test, I believe you need a whole day to get your license. As for Saturday, there will be another briefing from the principal himself, so make sure to attend. The time and place will be informed at a later date. The training will start next Monday. Any questions? This time, it was Theo who raised his hand. Teacher. What benefit can we get from participating? Theo had so many thoughts about this competition because the announcement was so coincidental. Yesterday, he met Aaliyah. She told him about all this and said to keep it a secret. To think the teacher would announce it the next day, it couldn't help but raise his suspicion. You will gain many benefits if you can participate in this competition. First of all, you will get a certain degree of fame, which will help you if you want to get a job in a big family or something. Of course, this competition is one of the most watched competitions, so if you perform well enough, people might fall in love and bring you as their in-law, so yeah, getting huge support for your career and so much more. And there is no way we will allow someone to compete with those geniuses from all over the world without backing you up. The school will provide you with training and skills to make sure you are ready to beat those geniuses. Theo widened his eyes as he thought, the terms are good. Should I seriously aim for this? If I become a participant, the government will surely protect me until the competition ends. As long as I perform well enough, the Lang family can't touch me easily. And I don't think Aaliyah will do something detrimental even if she knows my identity. Besides, I should have saved up enough money to leave the country if things turn worse. Theo contemplated whether to risk his identity was worth the effort or not. He convinced himself with 2 more things. I should be able to set up a few connections when participating in that tournament. Going international means I can get closer to my goal to become the strongest while searching for my brother. Ultimately, he decided to hide his identity for as long as possible during the training, as it wouldn't matter too much in the near future. The teacher then continued. And one thing you need to know, you won't be able to return home during the training. The only way to go back home is to give up. The food and shelter will be provided, but don't expect good quality because it's a kind of military rations. Of course, there is no special treatment even if you pay us millions of zills. Any question? Do you know about the training menu? I mean, what kind of training will we face? The training will depend on your jobs. They have specialists that will help you complete your training. So, there won't be a warrior having a magician's training set. Clear? Yes. Thank you for the answer, teacher. The student nodded politely. If you don't have a question, today will be your last class. This opportunity is for all of you, but you can meet me after school if you can't participate. I will be in charge of your study for 1 month, so don't expect me to give you mercy. That's all. The teacher then turned around and left the classroom. As soon as he closed the door, the class turned into an uproar, talking about the training camp. The same thing occurred in all grades, but But the third year's excitement was slightly less, considering that Aaliyah already took one of the spots. As for her plan about inviting Sin and her friend, it was still a secret because she wanted to prove to the others that they were qualified to participate in the tournament. Chapter 24, Job. After school, Theo had another thought of what he wanted to do. A coffee shop was a good place for solving his thought. The training comes really soon and will take a long time. Right now, I can buy a cheap apartment, but I won't get that much of a space. What I need right now is a larger one where I can train with my clone, so it means I need to go for a more expensive one which can only be acquired by rent right now. His Skylink was already open, searching for the apartments. He skimmed all the information to find a perfect apartment for him. I should rent this one. It has 2 master bedrooms. I can turn one of them to my training room. Besides, the living room is quite big, so it should be enough. It will be perfect if I have a mansion where I can use the garden to train, but that's only a long-term goal for me. He remembered the benefits that the school offered if he was selected. With this kind of benefit, he believed he could reach his goal soon, so he was determined to obtain one of the spots even if Aaliyah knew about his identity. This was a pipe dream before, but to think I can see it now, I should thank the one who granted me this power, the god of mischief. Theo thought and looked at the ceiling. The god of mischief is pleased to see your attitude. He shook his head with a smile. Anyway, if I am going to rent an apartment, it's better to only do it after the training. I will be wasting money if I rent it now. In other words, if I can register myself in the temple, I can go to the other side again to increase my strength. After all, there is no way they will choose a weak person for the competition. Unfortunately, he needed to spend a few hours in the school on Saturday because they would announce his group. If they announce it on the Skylink network, I won't need to go to school and spend 3 days straight training on the other side, but I guess this is too important. He finished his coffee and left the shop, planning to finish the registration as quickly as possible. He arrived in front of a tall building. Despite calling it a temple, the building was just like any other skyscraper. Not having an interest in admiring the building, he entered. The first room he saw was a giant lobby. With 20 feet high ceiling and limited pillar, the lobby looked spacious despite many people walking around. On his right were lines of chairs where people usually waited. On the opposite side, Theo found a giant billboard where people could link their Skylink to it, and searched for a party or mission. He himself didn't understand that much regarding how it all worked, so he planned to test his strength first while understanding the system. He walked straight from the door where 3 receptionists handled all the matters in the guild. Theo simply chose the one who didn't deal with anyone right now. She appeared to be a woman in her mid-20s with her long red hair tied into a ponytail. She wore a black suit that seemed to be the uniform of this temple. "Welcome to the Warrior Temple. How can I help you?" she politely asked while wearing her warmest smile. "I am here to register. May I see your ID?" Theo nodded and handed the ID card. I am sorry, but you are 1 year too early to register. If you have special permission, then I can begin processing it. Actually, I am here from the academy. Academy? Oh, I almost forgot. Yes, we have been instructed to register the first-year student from Evergreen Academy. In that case, may I have your school ID to check if you are a student there? The receptionist quickly recovered and asked. Theo nodded and handed her his school ID. She found his picture and matched it with his current appearance. "I have confirmed it. Please follow me." The receptionist pressed the green button on her desk, where another receptionist quickly took over her place. Theo nodded and followed her. "Excuse me, can I ask a few things?" "Of course. I will help you as much as I can. I would like to know about the jobs first. What benefit do I get if I have a job?" Many parties will have different preferences. For example, there is a party of 1 knight, 2 magicians, 1 scout, and 1 assassin. Usually, they will need a fighter or another knight to fill the last hole in their party since a party should consist of 6 people. She pointed at the back and continued. If you look at the billboard in the lobby, you will find many groups searching for a member for hunting. They have a requirement for their job and level while stating how long they will stay on the other side and any other information. It will make things easier to get a party. But isn't that too vague? You won't have good coordination with a newly created party? Theo furrowed his eyebrows. Indeed. However, you can see the members' information and their track record, so you can judge whether to go along with them or not. Of course, we hope that you don't easily choose a party because there are some evil parties that keep preying on the weak just for money or items, so if you want to get a party, you should join with your friend or at least, look for one that has a good reputation. We can watch each other back that way. Theo nodded in agreement. Exactly. How about the 4 big jobs? Theo asked, contemplating his own choice. Knight is the one taking all the attacks from the enemy. If you say it with a game term, you can consider them as a tank or guardian. The job is fairly simple. As for the second job, fighter, they usually do the most damage to the monsters while the knight holds the monster off. They can also participate as a second knight if necessary. Theo nodded, thinking that he might be suited to fighter. As the name implies, magic warriors are similar to fighters but have the ability to use magic. It's a hard job, but this will show how talented they are. The last one will be the ranger. Yes, it's for the people who use a bow or a gun. She took out her device and opened the form for Theo. So, what is the job you are going to apply for? Theo narrowed his eyes as he had 2 options, fighter and magic warrior. I choose. Chapter 25 Information. I choose to be a fighter, Theo answered with a smile. That's right. Can I change my job later? Yes. You can. However, you are required to inform the guild first. The process usually takes 7 workdays and you can only change your job once a year to prevent people from abusing it. I understand, Theo remembered about his other identity. He hesitated a bit but still asked her. Can I actually hide my name with an alias or something? Yes, you can. Many people use their alias because they feel uncomfortable putting on their real name. However, it also means that we can't give all privileges. For example, if you use a weird name with a random picture, it's hard to trust you other than your track record, right? Understandable. Also, you can get a quest there. From my experience, there are many big families putting one quest after another. In some cases, they choose who they want to let in, so having this mysterious status will put you in a difficult position. In other words, if you are fine with losing so many benefits in exchange for your identity, I can issue it for you. Of course, there is an additional fee. She smiled. I see. This is for a training camp, so I can't really make it mysterious, can't I? Theo scratched the back of his head embarrassedly before recalling he still had another identity. He probably used it when traveling on the other side. Fair enough. The receptionist nodded and asked, do you know about the testing process? I don't, he shook his head. First, we need to record your status and your level so we can present it on your personal information. Of course, we will keep the exact number a secret. Instead, we will use A to F grades depending on your status. In other words, if you are at a certain level and have a certain point in strength, you will get the grade that symbolizes the allocation points into your strength. Theo agreed with her. True enough. I can't claim to be a mage if I have low magic power, right? Exactly. After recording my status, what is the next process? We are doing a medical checkup to make sure that your body is fit enough to go. Of course, you need to do it every 6 months. You can either use this place or call the staff to come to your home if you have the machine. Call the staff? Yes. Every hunter will be assigned to one staff. They are usually the ones helping you register, so you can say that I am your assigned staff. I will give you my work number later, so if you need any help, you can just call me. Of course, please limit it to work only. I understand, but you must have a rough time. Theo glanced at her. No, every staff only handles 50 people at max. We have so many staff, so it's not like we have too many jobs. She shook her head. I don't mean to be rude or curse you, but if you are confirmed to be dead, it means I will lose one of my people and force me to go to receive new blood in our temple. In that case, if you have 50 people under you, you will be stationed elsewhere. Yes, but I can't disclose more than this. Alright. Thank you for the explanation. Theo nodded while taking all the information in. The third stage will be your track record. We have a system where you can record every single monster you kill to your track record and disclose it according to your jurisdiction. Of course, we will protect people's privacy. Even the government asks it, unless you are an international criminal or something, we won't give it to them. Okay. What's the next step? It's done. Your fighter ID will be issued in a few hours. I see. I will wait then. By the way, this is my ID, you can call me if you need me. She handed him a name card. Sarah Silcox. 06104XXX. Thank you, Miss Sarah. No need to talk politely. We will be meeting each other every now and then in the future. Besides, I am just 4 years above you. Theo nodded. Then, I will be counting on you, Sarah. Yes. She smiled. They had been walking through the corridor for a few minutes. Even Theo couldn't remember where he came from as this place looked like a labyrinth. At the end of his corridor, a gate gradually opened as if waiting for them. There were 50 people inside the room. Each seemed to be handling someone with their assigned staff. Sarah led him to a person. He was a middle-aged man with white hair. He was busy looking at the screen. Can I ask you for help, Mr. N? Sarah smiled. Oh. A newbie? All right. He nodded and pointed at the round black crystal on the corner of his table. This is the crystal that allows us to see your status and level. Of course, we can only see those two. Blessings and skills won't be registered since it's your trump card. We won't store the information here either. Theo nodded and placed his hand. Level, 24. Attributes, Strength 38, Endurance 17, Agility 26, Vitality 17, Magic Power 36. Let me process it a bit. He nodded and stretched his hand to Sarah. Can I have his personal information? Here. She handed the form she had been filling until now. Mr. N typed for 2 minutes and gave a small tablet. This is your identity. Name, Theodore Griffith. Level, 24. Attributes, Strength B, Endurance D, Agility C, Vitality D, Magic Power C. Health problem. Kill. Please proceed to the medical bay. I have sent the information there. Sarah nodded. Thank you, Mr. N. Theo also nodded his head to show his thanks as he followed Sarah to the medical bay. The same as the previous one, Theo got a medical checkup and found no health problem. After that, he went to another room to confirm his track record, but Theo chose to not disclose the information and only wanted them to track what he had done after getting his fighter ID, which was approved by the one in charge there. Theo's reason was simple: he couldn't afford to shock them with a newbie killing a rock turtle, couldn't he? Chapter 26, ID card. A few hours after the process, Theo, who had been waiting in the lobby, found Sarah walking toward him. On her hand was a small white card. It appeared that he needed to scan it with his device later to access it online, but either way, it wouldn't take too much time. This is your fighter ID. For now, you have no track record and medical issues and can start searching for a group. I have one more question. Is it possible for me to go on a mission alone? Theo asked after contemplating on what he wanted to do during the next 3 days. He planned to level up like a madman, considering that he and his clone were counted as 2 people. There are 3 types of missions that you can take from the billboard. First will be the daily mission. They are there just to get the daily supply for a company or other things. The second type is a commissioned mission. They are the same as daily missions, but this is just for a special occasion where you need to kill a specific monster or grab a certain plant on the other side because someone happens to need it at that time. The third type is a special mission which usually came from a big family. There is no guideline in this. Right now, some missions require a group of 50 and the rest are a normal group or for one person only. In any case, they are hard to predict. So, do I have a possibility to go for a mission alone? Although the answer was obvious, Theo still asked it again since Sarah had yet to answer. He just wanted to confirm it. To be honest, yes. Sarah sighed when she looked at Theo's serious face. There was no way Theo would back down from this. You can go for the first and second types for now. I see. Theo nodded, connected to the billboard, and opened the temple's website, logging in with his new warrior ID to check the missions. There were indeed 2 options like the one Sarah said earlier. Even so, I still need to say this to you. I personally ask you to form a party because it's safer to fight in a group rather than alone. Besides, you can do more things, especially if there are so many monsters. I understand, answered Theo with a calm tone. He just didn't want to get into an argument with his staff right after registering, so he just went along with her concern, even though he had no plan to follow it. Sarah let out a long sigh. She had met so many people like Theo, but most of them ended up dying. Still, she had done her best, so the rest would be up to him. I can't do anything about that. But I would like to ask you to take care of yourself. Even though I often see lives come and go, I would like to support people as long as possible, including you. Thank you for worrying about me. Theo nodded with a smile. I will do my best to stay safe. That's right. Can I grab multiple missions at once? Sarah twitched her eyebrows, wanting to hit Theo. He just said that he would do his best, but he broke that promise in his next question. You can, but you should know that some missions have a time limit, so it's best not to take 2 or more missions at the same time. Then, it means I can still go through the missions and finish them without taking the missions. Only when I return here do I get another mission and quickly confirm that I have finished it. Theo quickly grabbed the loophole he could use to get more money. As long as someone hasn't taken the mission or the one who gave the mission hasn't put it down yet. If it's the former, you can choose to sell the items or anything to them, or I can only say, don't mind for the latter. Ahaha. Theo scratched the back of his head and nodded. I think I have finished everything here. Thank you for helping me, Sarah. Sure. Glad to be of help. She smiled and bowed politely as she shook his hand. Theo then left the temple, not heading straight to his home. Instead, he went to the magic temple. He met a brown-haired young man that handed him his card. Of course, his profile was him using his mask. A bit creepy, but no one would know it was him. His status was the same other than his name, Joker. This is your magician ID card, Mr. Joker. He smiled. Thank you, George. Theo nodded and took the ID card. Theo didn't show his ID card this time because he already told him that he wanted another identity other than his new one. After arguing for a few minutes, George finally approved his ranking after showing the official letter from the school that he could have the identity. Theo tried hard to make sure that George didn't know anything about him other than his age and status. Even when he took this magic temple ID card, there was only one creepy mask to remember. Luckily, George seemed to be fine after that and treated him politely according to their standard operating procedure. No, I just did my job. George shook Theo's hand before the latter left the temple since Sarah had answered all his questions. On the way, a thought arose in his mind. Ugh, to think I needed to pay 50,000 zills just for another identity. It's not like I need another ID card or something. No, I do need it for a backup plan. Theo sighed. Albeit, I don't know how effective it will be after the training starts. Either way, better safe than sorry. With that thought in mind, he quietly walked under the moonlight while searching for a mission. After all, no one could access the Skylink on the other side without any signal due to the lack of satellites. As for the reason why Aaliyah could send the money to him, she didn't. It was only registered after Aaliyah returned and got the internet back. But the fact that she sent it there through the most direct way, Aaliyah couldn't cancel the transfer and whatsoever to protect the receiver's right. I think this one is great. Theo smiled when he found a mission that caught his attention. Mission, kill Giant Toad and get the poison sack card. Level, 24-28. Reward, 5,000 zills. Chapter 27, Giant Toad. The next day, Friday, had come where most students would register their name in the temple. They should have discussed it with their parents and only came today as instructed. However, Theo didn't have a family, so he could decisively choose to register yesterday. Today became the best opportunity for him to raise his level. Alright. Let's go. I hope I can reach level 30 today. Theo made it look easy, but little did he know that his own leveling speed was far from normal. Not only could he get the full amount of EXP, but his clone allowed him to kill a monster faster by sacrificing itself or doing something in perfect coordination. Theo didn't need to talk it out or plan a strategy because the clone would follow his thought. Usually, a group needed at least a month to understand what each other was going to do and how they were going to achieve it perfectly. However, the clone simply broke the system and became Theo's ultimate partner. If not, Theo would have no confidence in getting to level 28, let alone 30. He opened the map again and moved it to the west, where he found a place named Danar Swamp. Sometimes, he hoped he could buy a vehicle to travel after knowing that this journey alone would take 1 hour on foot. Having no money, he could only endure it for now. As soon as he arrived at the swamp, the Skylink rang, telling him that they reached their destination. He turned off the alarm and raised his vision, finding giant trees every now and then. Next to the trees was a meandering river that flowed smoothly as if there was no steep ground beneath it. His nose was soon filled with a pungent smell that came out of a small hole on the ground. Sulfur. Theo narrowed his eyes, covered his mouth with spare clothes, and put on his mask. The toad is powerful, so I really need to watch out for its tongue. After recounting all of his preparations, he finally stepped forward, entering the swamp. The green twiners covered most of the trunk, but his concern was snakes. In this type of environment, there should be snakes hiding somewhere. Even the information provided by his Skylink told him to watch his surroundings to avoid snakes. He kept advancing for a few minutes before finding a giant toad. Most of its skin was light green except its belly. 10 feet in height made his heart skip a beat because it was almost twice his height. Combined with its giant body, the toad would surely crush all his bones if it happened to fall on him. He summoned his clone and handed the spear. Before the toad could find him, Theo raised his hand. A blue round light formed on top of his palm, shining dimly. He had tried to do this yesterday, but his control was so low that he couldn't even split the light ball into two despite 10 being the limit. The magic power fluctuated. When Theo was about to release his magic bullet, he waited for a bit more since the toad seemed to be stronger than him. Magic bullet. The light flew off his hand, leaving a trail as if shooting a laser. The toad noticed it and turned around. It leapt several feet above the ground and saw clone Theo holding his spear. Meanwhile, the real one was hiding behind a tree, planning for an ambush. Croak. The toad's belly bloated up and released a weird sound before the toad opened its giant mouth, launching the long tongue to smash Theo. Using it as an opening, clone Theo leapt to the side and closed the distance between them while the real Theo looked at the ground that just got hit by that tongue. It completely sank 3 inches. Without a doubt, his clone would be done for as long as the toad hit it once. Clone Theo stomped the ground and changed direction, going around the toad until he arrived behind it. However, the toad managed to follow his movement, avoiding exposing its back. The tongue struck forth. Clone Theo raised his spear to stop it for a few seconds. In the meantime, real Theo left his hiding spot and charged from the side before gradually making his way toward the toad's back. He waved his sword, slicing the toad's skin. It was supposed to cut the monster, but he didn't feel it. The toad quickly turned around and found another Theo attacking him. Having no time to waste, Theo retreated a few steps to get a distance before shooting another magic bullet. Surprisingly, the toad swiped the bullet, changing its direction to a tree next to him. The magic bullet exploded after hitting the tree. Croak. Croak. It's time. Theo smiled and summoned another one. The toad must be feeling sick after getting injured on its hand. However, everything changed when he looked at his sword. The sword was covered with a thick sticky green mucus. It was thick enough that he wouldn't be able to cut himself with this on his sword. His clone quickly threw his spear, not far from him. Theo pulled the spear out of the ground while making his way toward the toad. As if receiving his killing intent, the toad's instinct kicked up as he turned around and planned to slap Theo with its other hand. Clone Theo jumped to the toad's head and covered its eyes. Theo smirked and halted his step for a split second to allow the toad to complete its swipe before making his way toward the toad again. He thrust his spear with a little spin. Pierce. Unlike the green skin, there was no mucus in the white belly. Ultimately, Theo's spear pierced the belly before green substances began to flow out of its body. Trusted his spear's quality, Theo took a few steps back before another magic bullet hit the toad's head. With his clone covering its eyes, the magic bullet blasted its head along with the clone before the same green liquid spurted out of the head like rain. Huffed. To think that it is this hard to fight a toad. Theo sighed as he grabbed his spear. As he was about to touch the toad's body, he found another thing, far to his left. He furrowed his eyebrows and opened his mouth in surprise. Chapter 28, Memory. Meanwhile, at the same location where Shella and Eric died, 5 people appeared. They wore the same tight black suit, covering every part of their body other than their eyes. As soon as they found 2 cracked skeletons, the middle one raised his hand. Investigate the body. The other 4 disappeared. 2 of them began looking for any clue about the skeletons while taking out blood samples from the ground, whereas the other 2 checked the 2 skeletons. With the present technology, they should be able to get enough information from the blood test even if the blood dried up. Next to the tree was a small bracelet with blood smearing on it. It was none other than the Skylink that the skeleton had. I have found the Skylink. We need to confirm the serial number. The one, who commanded them earlier, took a step forward as he raised his hand, activating the Skylink, which happened to be the same bracelet. It projected a blue skin to which the man typed a few things before getting his hand close to the Skylink. Suddenly, the screen changed, turning into an ID card. ID 1,534,197,856,371. Name Shella Alberna. Status normal. It's confirmed. She is the one we are searching for. The captain nodded before turning to the other skeleton. That means the skeleton belongs to the male. They are the useless couple that the chairman wishes to remove. Still, we can't really get any information with all this evidence. Everything has been eaten, leaving only blood and broken skeletons. There is no artificial wound in the bone, so we don't know what they experienced before dying from a beast. The man presenting the bracelet sighed in defeat. There are only two possibilities. According to young Master Lost, he asked them to follow Theodore Griffith. Assuming that the latter killed them and left them here, he might be more dangerous than we expected. The chairman needs to know this. How about the second possibility? He is not involved at all. A beast killed them when they followed him. Considering Eric Lott was a level 12 and Shella Alberna was a level 9, it would be tough to fight in this place. They would constantly face level 10 to 15 monsters. The captain paused for a moment before his tone turned grim. But his subordinates stopped what they were doing, listening to his words. Either way, they were following Theodore Griffith. Calculating the direction and range, his original plan should be the forest beyond the slope where many level 20 monsters reside. This means that our information is not accurate anymore. The subordinates drew a gasp as they quickly checked Theo's level again in their information. He was only a mere trashy level 7. With him going to that place alone, he needed to be at least level 20 if not 25. To think their data was not this accurate. If the chairman knew, he would have punished them. Captain, what should we do? First, from the current information, we can safely assume that he came here during the public holiday, so we had no information about his current position. How about we go to the temples, Captain? The academy allows the first-year students to register themselves in the temples, so he must be there. The captain thought for a moment. The temples, huh? The first-year students are forbidden to register there because the academy wants them to gain enough experience during their first year to make sure they don't regret walking on this path. However, many of them have begun killing the monsters here, so it's also the way for the academy to measure the talented one. This proves the importance of the temples. After contemplating for a while, he gave the confirmation, and the group quickly left the scene. They didn't forget to bring all the samples they could get for identification. Little did they know, someone was watching them this whole time. She was an old lady with long white hair tied into a ponytail. Despite her aged face, it still brimmed with energy as if she had barely reached the threshold of old age. Her silver eyes slightly squinted when she heard their conversation. Temple, huh? She looked down with her right hand supporting her chin. Should I visit the temple or search this place? Never mind. Today is a special day, so I will go to the temple first. She jumped off the tree before she disappeared mid-air. Unlike their predictions, Theo was having a good time after dealing with the poisonous toad and finding another pair. Oh, a pair of toads? Theo furrowed his eyebrows. Before thinking about those two, he looked at what he got first from the first toad. Killed a giant toad. EXP plus 51. He touched the toad's body as it slowly disappeared, leaving not a single card. Such a shame. Theo shook his head helplessly before hearing someone's laughter. Ha ha ha. This is our lucky day. We shall use this pair of toads as the first celebration of our party. Theo furrowed his eyebrows and came closer as he was curious what was going on. He hid his presence while peeking through the gap between bushes. It turned out that while he was rummaging the loot, a group of 3 reached this place and fought the toads. The first one was a red-haired man with a big X scar on his chest, while next to him was a timid-looking boy wearing big round glasses. Behind them was a big muscular guy holding a giant club with spikes on the club's head. I am unlucky today. They might not need my help too. Theo sighed and thought. Let's say they need help and I bust in to help. I might be able to turn around the situation, but is there really that much merit in going that far in this situation? And what if they use that chance to say that I am hoarding all the good things and use it to go against me? His face was distorted when thinking so many bad possibilities and concluded it in one sentence. Seems like a hassle. As he was about to turn around, Theo witnessed one last thing that changed his mind. The person with an X scar on his cheek pushed the glasses young man toward the toad, making his balance unstable. Go, rookie. The two toads quickly stretched their tongues from two different directions. However, their target was the same, the glasses guy. The first tongue hit his face, destroying his glasses and deforming his face. The second one struck his stomach, blowing him several feet away. Gah! The guy seemed to still have his consciousness and stretched his hand toward the two guys, asking, "Help!" Now, contrary to the guy's expectation, the two ignored him and quickly attacked each toad, leaving a huge mark in their belly. Haha. Using someone as a sacrifice indeed makes everything easier. We can kill this pair of toads in under 3 minutes. Let's go, second brother. Rookie is indeed good since they are easy to be fooled. Yes, first brother. The big guy smiled before looking at the rookie on the ground, still trying his hardest to survive. Before that, the big guy hit the glasses guy's head, crushing his skull. The half-broken glasses flew to the air before landing on the ground smeared with blood. Theo's expression turned cold when everything unraveled before him. This scene reminded him of what would have happened to him after Eric and Shella betrayed him. Chapter 29, World with Only Good People? Theo's expression turned cold when everything unraveled before him. After killing the couple, he almost forgot that humans were the most dangerous species in the world. Due to their extreme intelligence compared to other animals, they could do extreme things like this. He couldn't help but recall when the couple betrayed him. Should I kill them? Theo muttered in a low voice. Do I have enough strength to kill them? It's true that I want to destroy humanity, especially people like these two, but I need to make sure that my strength is higher than them or else I will die before fulfilling my goal. Suddenly, a path came into his vision when he saw the toad hit the big guy's right hand with its tongue, knocking the club to the air. This completely made him understand those two's prowess as he decided on what to do. Meanwhile, the small guy shouted, "Second brother. Are you all right?" "Ugh. My hand is broken, but I can still fight." "Okay. I will finish soon." He shouted and slashed the toad again, albeit it was too shallow like the first one. Due to the injury, the so-called first brother kept glancing over to check if his brother could handle the toad or not. However, after the third glance, he saw another human approaching his brother with a spear in his hand. Normally, people would think that this person was planning to save him from the frog, but the big brother didn't share the same view. Second brother. Betty. Before he could finish his words, Theo already pierced the big guy's heart from behind and pulled his spear. Ah! The big guy roared. Blood flowed out of his mouth and wound at the same time as his face turned pale. The man roared as he turned around and charged at Theo. "You bastard! What have you done to my brother? I am going to key." Ah! Albeit, before he finished, Theo had pierced the big guy's neck to make sure he died while ignoring the other guy. "Why you?" When he was about to come out, Theo realized that he didn't have two masks for himself, so he covered his facial features with clothes as a temporary solution. Theo simply smiled when watching this as he glanced over the two toads first before leaping diagonally to where the man is. The man realized why Theo suddenly changed his direction and realized that blood rushed into his head earlier. He glanced at the left side and quickly raised his left hand when the toad was about to stick out its tongue again. A translucent green sphere covered his body as the tongue hit it instead. Unfortunately, the tongue shattered the sphere into pieces. Theo was ready to intercept him and thrust his spear. However, the man seemed to be better than he thought and managed to barely escape death. "I am going to kill you." The man spun his body and slashed sideways with his sword started glowing. Unfortunately for him, his luck ran short. He might have gone beyond his expectation, but it was still within Theo's imagination. A blue light fluctuated behind the bushes as it flew toward the man, piercing its body. But at the same time, the reason Theo leapt to the side was so the man and the toad were aligned, thus allowing him to kill the toad right after creating a hole in the man's stomach. "You talk too much." Theo snorted. He finally took one step forward to fulfilling his goal. It seems that the rumor that Haven is the most dangerous place you can find is true since it's filled with people like you. Humans true. Nature, despite being so depraved, are like that of the light. At least some of them. He thought while recalling his past. He realized that his brother must have sacrificed many things to let him alive and his disappearance might be related to the Lang family. "I wonder what will happen if I kill all people like you, so only the people like my brother live in this world." It turned out that the Theo who appeared first was none other than his clone. After killing the man and one toad, clone Theo kept the remaining one busy as the real him sneaked around and struck its belly. Due to the wound that the man gave earlier, the frog had no chance against him and died in one strike. Kill the giant toad. EXP plus 51. Kill the giant toad. EXP plus 51. Level up. He let out a sigh of relief and unsummoned his clone. The best way to kill the toad seems to be with my magic bullet. However, I can't waste too much magic power or I won't last too long. Theo took out a pair of gloves in his bag and wore it as he began searching for any possession the two bad guys had. As the guy earlier said, these were their first monsters, so Theo couldn't find any item other than their equipment. However, he didn't know whether they were registered under their name or not, so he decided to look for a card since it was the safest one to bring home. After getting disappointed, Theo searched the body of the glasses guy and found one card. Skill, Wolf's Howl, F. Effect, allows the user to howl like a wolf. Good for gaining attention for various reasons. Theo furrowed his eyebrows and sighed. I don't need this one. I will just use it to upgrade my clone. With this, I already have 2 spare F-rank skills. Nice. Before leaving the glasses guy, he looked down on him with a poker face. It's not my intention, but I have avenged you. Rest in peace. Theo then walked to the 2 toads and placed his hands on them. Sticky mucus, F. It's so slimy that it almost makes people unable to hold something. It is usually used as a base material for lotions. Surprisingly, each toad dropped the same card, albeit none of them made him happy, considering that he couldn't find what he was searching for. Ace. This will take a lot of time. Well, the information says that the chance is only 5%, so I will need to hunt at least 20 toads to get one. No wonder the mission gives 5,000 zills. Theo checked everything first to make sure he didn't leave any evidence behind. Right. I should buy another pair of disguises for my clone. It's useful to hide from other people. After taking a note of what he needed to do as soon as he reached the base, he continued his journey to complete his mission. Chapter 30, Immature. Magic Bullet. Boom. Theo's magic bullet just created a hole in the toad's body. He had been hunting more than 13 toads and leveled up 2 times, but none of them dropped the poison sac he wanted until this one. He placed his hand on its head as a card fell from the disappearing body. Poison sac, F. Giant toad's poison sac. The explanation was pretty much it from the card, but if he used his Skylink to identify it, he would be able to get detailed explanations about its usage since the people had researched it in the past. Finally, it's almost lunch already. To think I have hunted the toads for hours. He let out a long sigh and decided to take a breath, finding a safe spot. He had his lunch to rejuvenate himself to fight for the rest of the day. After that, he ended up killing a few more monsters and getting a bit lucky as they dropped 2 skill cards. Having no use for the current situation, Theo stored them in his bag as he had gathered 4 F-rank skills in his bag. To upgrade his clone skill, he needed 1 more F-rank skill. Albeit it seemed to be not possible today. It was already past 4 p.m. and the return journey needed an hour. To avoid getting stuck in the dark, Theo had no choice other than to go home. But a ridiculous thought appeared in Theo's mind. I think I can fight one more time. I've never fought 2 monsters at a time. Should I test it today or just wait? No, I shouldn't waste too much time because I will become more hesitant in the future. I will just fight a pair of toads since I have been killing so many of them today to the point I learned their attack patterns. It should be perfect for today's last fight. This thought came after remembering what happened to the last party he killed. He began wondering whether he had the ability to take on 2 toads simultaneously since he had leveled up 4 times today. Can I do this? Theo muttered in a low voice while looking at the 2 toads staring at each other. From my perspective, I should be able to do it since it's been a pretty easy fight for the whole day even though all of them came only one at a time. He summoned his clone after gaining a bit more confidence but hesitated for one last time when he was about to charge. Still, I was once in a party myself. Every single member boosted the whole party's overall strength by a large amount. He thought for another minute before shaking that thought off. I can escape by sacrificing my clone, so it should be fine. Theo nodded with a solemn expression as he rose from the ground. He made the first move by sending his clone to the front, becoming their target. It's time. Croak. The toads noticed him and turned their giant bodies, facing this person who dared to face them by himself. Their cheeks bloated a little as they both stretched their tongues to kill him, like what Theo witnessed a few hours ago. Unlike that glasses guy, Theo stomped the ground and leapt to the left while thrusting his spear with a spin. Pierce. He struck the tongue instead of avoiding it because the tongue coming from the right would miss him either way. Still, as he would expect from a tongue that could crash the soil, the moment he took it head-on, his grip almost slipped off his right hand, forcing the position of his hand to move from the center of the handle to 3 inches away from the blade. At the same time, the spear's butt struck the ground, becoming his foundation for his power. The spear that only managed to graze it finally pierced it. The toad quickly retracted its tongue as if it was scared of that spear and leapt back to gain a distance. Meanwhile, the other one shot out its tongue again to prevent Theo from chasing. Despite people saying that monsters have lower-level intelligence compared to humans, they are still intelligent enough to help their kin. This is new to me. Theo realized that fighting a horde would surely invite such a reaction from multiple creatures at once. Not knowing why, but the story Aaliyah told him lingered in his head. Just thinking about her defeating 50 bats alone already made him respect her a little bit. Of course, it didn't mean he diminished the fact that her blunder almost killed him twice. Theo took another deep breath and charged toward the other toad. At the same time, the real Theo sneaked behind the toad. He knew that the mucus behind the toad would just deflect his sword, so he went around and struck him on his belly while the toad's focus remained in his clone. Due to the continuous fights, he should have used magic bullet here to kill one, but he didn't want to rely on it too much in order to conserve mana. After all, the situation was still under his control, so he wanted to see how far he could go without the magic bullet. The toad that escaped earlier watched how Theo struck his teammate and released its wounded tongue. The tongue missed as Theo jumped up. Once it hit the ground, the toad closed its eyes for a few seconds, feeling the excruciating pain. But his teammate managed to jump back to his side, escaping imminent death. Theo obviously had no plan to release him after his efforts. The clone marched forward as Theo summoned his magic bullet because his plan had failed. This should kill one of the toads and create an opportunity for both Theo and his clone to kill the other. To his surprise, the toad that was supposed to die due to this magic bullet puffed its cheek like a squirrel and spat out round purple mucus. It directly hit his magic bullet, melted it in an instant and continued flying toward his direction. Theo gasped and tried to throw himself to the side, albeit barely succeeded. The small purple ball landed on the ground and dissolved the soil. Theo sweat dripped. At this moment, he realized that not every plan would go according to his expectation and he should make at least one backup plan, not only at a peaceful time but also in a battle. One failure will be my demise. I should proceed every step with this thought in mind. To think I was and am still this immature. He also lost his focus for a second and the second toad hit his clone, obliterating him. The spear dropped to the ground with Theo, who had yet to stabilize his stance. He looked up and saw the left toad's cheek bloated again as it prepared for another attack. Theo's expression turned grim. Chapter 31, Growth. KH. Theo gulped down. The attack was so close that it almost hit him. He didn't dare to think about the possibility of it hitting him, so he shook his head while leaping backward. Bang! The tongue hit the ground, precisely where he was at previously. He ran to the left while summoning his clone again. Magic bullet. Theo raised his hand and tried to confirm whether the toad could do it again. Surprisingly, the toad spat another purple ball and melted his magic bullet. Unlike the last time, he avoided it effortlessly and continued running. Meanwhile, his clone faced the other toad's tongue but managed to avoid it before bending his knee to grab the spear on the ground and ran back to regroup with the real him. To finish this, it's better to use magic bullet but split it at least 2. But I've never succeeded. Theo thought hard. Screw it. It's do or die. Clone Theo raised the spear and planned to take on the toads alone, while Theo stepped back a few times and stretched his hand. Between his 2 palms, the magic bullet appeared. Now! Theo shouted inwardly as he channeled his power to control the magic bullet. Unfortunately, the magic bullet turned unstable as it started wobbling around like rippling waves in the water. The round-shaped magic bullet was slowly deformed as it began to split like a cell divided itself. However, the reaction increased as Theo started losing his control over the magic bullet before it exploded like a balloon popped out. The small shock wave made his hands a bit numb as he forfeited his clone for that split second. Seeing that difference, the toads stretched out their tongues, hitting the clone. KH. Theo felt the toll earlier and ran to the side, so the toads couldn't hit him. What should I do? Should I just run away? But if it's only one, I can beat it. Why is it so different when there are two? When he was about to escape, an idea flashed in his mind as he couldn't help but clench his teeth. Theo summoned his clone again and ran into the woods as though he was running away from them. Of course, he didn't lose contact with his clone, allowing him to maintain its movement. Clone Theo charged at the injured toad, planning to finish it. The toads turned around and focused on the clone instead, thinking that the other one truly escaped. People said that luck is also a part of weapons. Even the god of mischief told you how lucky you were. To think you let such a thing get into your head and become more arrogant. When will you stop relying on luck? Theo clenched his teeth as he went around the toad where he could barely see his clone fighting. It was harsh to control the clone that way, but he thought it was worth it because no way the toad would notice this. No, I'm not going to rely on it anymore. Even if I have the luck to see a miracle, I will need to have enough strength to perform the miracle itself. Theo raised his hand, summoned the first magic bullet, and shot it toward the healthier toad because this would surely kill it. Magic bullet. The magic bullet flew straight between the trees and hit right on its head. Croak. The other toad was surprised to see that light coming out of its friend's head and saw a hole on his head. Clone Theo took this distraction to pierce his spear on its head as the toad fell to the ground. I might not be able to form two magic bullets right now, but there are always multiple answers. The reason why I thought only the two magic bullets was the answer was due to my naivety and experience. If I couldn't hit the toad because of the poison ball, I just needed to shoot it from their blind spot. Theo let out a relieved breath as he regrouped with his clone. It's really hard to fight one. No, this might also be the point of view of all single monsters I have killed with my clone. No wonder it's so easy to fight 2 versus 1. I am glad to experience it this early. He placed his hand on the two toads and surprisingly, one of them dropped a skill card. Skill, spitting poison, F. Effect, allow the user to spit out poison mucus from their mouth. Effective only for level 40 or below. Huh? Are you serious? Theo twitched his eyebrows, wanting to throw this card immediately. The poison that the toad used earlier was far stronger. It even melted the ground. Why would it become this useless? I mean, level 40 is good, but I don't think it will be useful in the long run. If I can level up 4 times every day until I reach elite rank, I will surpass this card limit in just 3 to 4 days. After considering for a while, he grabbed the skills he put inside his bag. Staring at the 5 skills, he hesitated for a second due to the last skill he got. Screw it. I should upgrade my clone first. After all, it's the skill the god of mischiefs granted me. Besides, an E-rank skill like Magic Bullet helps me tremendously. Suddenly, the god of mischief talked to him again, confirming his decision. God of mischief wants your confirmation to upgrade your clone skill. Yes. Skill, clone E, upgradable. Upgrade, fuse 20 rank F skills and 1 rank E skill. Effect, a skill that allows the user to create a clone of himself. Due to the current skill rank, the user can create the same body, control its movement, share vision, and talk. Other parts are still locked. What? Theo widened his eyes. Although there wasn't much of an improvement, this would help him masking his ability. After all, he could control his clone remotely, maybe to scout or impersonate someone. Theo summoned his clone and wondered how he used the skill. When he closed his eyes, he felt fuzzy as though something was pulled out of his body. He quickly opened his eyes to check his body but saw his clone held a sword before his eyes. It was supposed to be his real body. That means... Theo looked down and saw the spear on his hand. I can't feel the weight of the spear. No, I don't even have a sense of touch. It feels weird. Theo shuddered while touching his hand or even gently slapped it but still had no feel. It crept him a little bit, but the most important question was how to return to his body. Since there was only one clue, he decided to close his eyes again, having the same feeling before his consciousness returned to his real body. He touched his hand again and sensed it. Ah, yes. I'm back. I will explore this skill a bit more later after reaching home. It's going to become dark soon. Chapter 32, Group. The next day, Theo went to school. It was Saturday and students normally didn't go to school. He, however, could only see people after people coming into the school, showing the students' enthusiasm for the Grand Gaia competition. When he was about to enter the school, a crowd of people took his attention. They all faced the same direction, which turned out to be a billboard. On that wooden board, several name lists were pinned. Each paper contained 500 people with A, B, C, D, and so on below the lists. Making his way through them, Theo gradually reached the very front, where he began to search for his school ID to see his group. Surprisingly, he noticed many unusual numbers that a first-year student wouldn't have. Seniors from second and third grades? Theo asked inwardly before frowning. He took a glance over his number and group. I am in Group D. I hope I don't need to meet Lost or anyone I know. Suddenly, a series of love-struck shouts pierced everyone's ears as they turned around. Kaya! It's the Wolf Prince! My prince! The girls began to scream as if their idol arrived at the school. Theo also became curious and turned around as he didn't know about this title thing, only to find himself regretting it in that instant. The Wolf Prince in their mouth was someone he knew. This man had a petite figure and acted cute like a woman. Yes, he was none other than Feral Hilbert. He had put him in his not-to-talk list to avoid getting dragged into the spotlight, albeit he seemed to have accepted and relied on something he shouldn't have. What should I do? I have been getting used to the magic bullet recently. Although I have no plan in revealing it, he might know it in one way or another. Theo's heart skipped a beat. I thought he was just a middle schooler, but it seemed you couldn't judge the book by its cover. Only one hope remained in Theo's head. Please, don't make him in my group. I want to stay away from him. God, please. Don't let any of these guys be a part of my group. Theo prayed to God while thinking about 4 people: Aaliyah Alaric, Lost Lang, Sin Raskaka, and Feral Hilbert. I mean, I don't mind being a part of their group, but it's only after the training is over. Feral waved his hand to the crowd while slowly making his way toward the billboard. The normal students didn't dare to stand in his way and quickly went to the side, allowing him to check his group. Theo also followed what the others did so as to avoid his radar while thinking, still, I can't understand why I don't know a famous person like him. Has he ever gone to school? As Theo thought about it, he heard a few people talking. Ah, my prince is so tragic. To think he needs to leave school this whole time due to his body. I wonder if there is a cure for his illness. If he doesn't need such a thing, he would have surpassed Sin Raskaka. SSSHH. We shouldn't talk about it so as to avoid hurting our prince's heart. Illness? Asked Theo in his mind, what kind of illness he has? And how strong he is? Did he lie to me a few days ago? As expected, this guy is dangerous. I should stay away from him. Feral looked left and right before finding his ID. I see. I am in B group, huh? In that instant, Theo felt ecstatic and clenched his fist like a winner. With his wish fulfilled, he could breathe out of relief. Now, I only need to search for the other 3. For now, I should wait here to see if there are any more people from my list coming here. After knowing his group, Feral waved his hand and said, those who are in B group. Please take care of me, okay? Kaya. The girls began to scream hysterically as if they couldn't control their lust for a small kid like him. Theo didn't care and searched for an empty chair where he could wait until the principal called them to gather. Meanwhile, unlike the peaceful atmosphere outside the school principal's office didn't share the same sentiment. There were 2 people in the room, staring at each other. The first one was a middle-aged man with a long black mustache despite him not having even a single strand of hair on his head. He wore a brown suit and looked at the girl before him. Principal. Why did you agree to this term? The woman shouted while slamming the table. The principal remained calm and even said menacingly. Aaliyah Alaric. Who do you think you are? You might be a genius, but there are so many geniuses in this country that can replace you. Besides, this order is not mine. Suddenly, Aaliyah felt something was wrong and stopped pressing him for an answer. Not from you. From who? It's someone above your grandfather, answered the principal with a flat tone. There will be someone overseeing the progress of the students and will choose the students himself. He handles everything, from body training to team creation. I can only tell you one thing. He is an eccentric man. Even your participation ticket might go up in smoke the day after tomorrow if you can't even pass his test. Aaliyah stared at the principal and took a few deep breaths. She might not like the situation, but it didn't mean she would blame everything on the principal, who had nothing to do with it. So, you are saying I only need to get accepted, right? From the bottom of my heart, I wish you to be one of the participants. Your chance is pretty high too. Unfortunately, I can't give you any assurance. The principal shook his head disappointedly. In any case, I will be announcing the training regimes right now. If you don't have any more complaints, go to the gym. Aaliyah furrowed her eyebrows and turned around. As she was about to leave the room, she stopped and said her last piece. No matter what you throw me, I will show you that I can get chosen. I will look forward to it. The principal closed his eyes, feeling that trouble would start coming. Chapter 33, 3 Stages of Training. Unfortunately for Theo, no one came afterward. Lost aside, who had yet to return despite his suspension had finished, neither Aaliyah nor Sin took a look at their number, or they probably already knew their number beforehand. The principal's voice soon resounded inside the school, asking all students to head to the gym for the briefing. Theo followed the crowd and entered the gym only to find 10 groups. Each group had one flag with a character on it. The principal stood a few feet in front of the flags and said, "Line up according to your group since I am going to start in 5 minutes." Finding the flag with a D character on it, he quickly walked toward the line and found someone who was his worst fear in this training. Aaliyah Aelaric. Theo wanted to escape or change the group right now, albeit it was impossible. With Aaliyah in his group, he needed to hide his power continuously and acted like a weak. This would lower his progress by a large amount if they had intensive training, considering he couldn't properly use his strength. Unfortunately, I can't escape if I want to change my fate. I need to get all the resources the government can offer to become the strongest, giving me the opportunity to reach my goal. And I won't break my promise to the god of mischief as well. This was Theo's plan. Even the god of mischief, who had been silent this whole time, finally replied to him. God of mischief only wants to see the world chaotic and doesn't care about the aftermath. Although surprising, Theo felt happy because God of mischief replied to him with something that perfectly aligned with his goal. This meant he could kill many people in the future. He slowly entered the line and made sure he didn't get too close to Aaliyah. After waiting for 5 minutes, all people had gathered inside the gym as the principal climbed the stage, standing above them. In front of their gazes, the principal waved his hand a few times as he glanced over the students and looked at the few noteworthy ones, such as Aaliyah or Sin. Good morning, my students. On this great day, I would like to announce a few things to you concerning your future training. The principal smiled and raised 3 fingers. There are 3 types of training you will receive during the 6 months period, as we will select those who we deem worthy. Without further ado, I shall explain the first training. This one is the most simple because you have been doing this in our regular curriculum. It's physical training. The military will send people to supervise all your training. And I will say this just once. You are free to give up if the training is too hard for you. However, it will also be the end of your hope to attain one of the positions in the Grand Gaia competition. The training will last for 3 months and the details will be explained by your own instructors at a later date, so I won't talk about it to avoid wasting everyone's time. The second training will be fighting. In this stage, you will form the ideal group in your mind based on luck and discretion. The only advice I can give right now without spoiling the detail is to win. As long as you win, you can keep encountering strong people that allow you to get them into your team. In fact, if you can beat Aaliyah Aelaric's team, you can even force her to join your team, so good luck. The principal smiled. This was a kind of warning coming from the principal to all the talented students. Normally, Aaliyah Aelaric, Sin Raskaka, Cyril Hilbert would be leading a team, but if they lost to someone else, not only would it affect their standing, but they also needed to bear the shame in their school life. Imagine Aaliyah Aelaric losing to someone, her ability would be questioned without a doubt. Seeing the tension in their faces, the principal continued with a poker face. There is one thing that gives you an opportunity to beat someone stronger. Each team will face each other inside the simulation world and all of you will be set at level 50 to ensure the fairness between grades. Last but not least, it's hunting training. What do you use your power for other than hunting monsters in the haven? Suppressing other people? The principal shrugged. After getting your own group, you shall be thrown into the dangerous haven. You have to survive for 1 to 2 months, depending on the result of the second stage. That's the 3 stages. If you have any questions, you may ask them to your instructors during the training. That is if you can. The principal ended his speech with a provocation, inciting the students' fighting spirit. I will survive no matter what. I want to get into Aaliyah Aelaric's team because it's a winning candidate. I want Everyone was pretty eager to show what they could, hoping that they would be selected as one of the candidates. After all, each student had a fair probability of achieving this. However, there was a hidden catch that only a few students noticed. The principal left a topic they needed to decipher, starting from the first stage. Since the training was to select a few elites, the training must be so brutal to chip down the number. After all, the second stage couldn't go with their original number because it would last too long, preventing the third round from happening. As for the second stage, the principal wanted them to test their adaptability and luck. They needed to adjust themselves to the team and made a correct choice, as the instructors would observe their judgment whether they could see someone's potential or not, and their luck. Yeah, luck ultimately was a part of skills. Theo reached the same conclusion as the talented people in this gym. However, his focus leaned on the third stage as he felt something was wrong. Earlier, he believed that the third stage of training wanted them to create perfect synergy in the entire team, but it changed after considering the fact that they were going to fight people from other countries. To that end, what mattered the most was none other than level. They must plan to increase the level of the first and second year students with the help of their third year. Theo couldn't help but mutter in a low voice. Interesting. Chapter 34, Tailing. After the big announcement from the principal, the students began to embark to either their home or the haven, preparing for the challenge in 2 days. Even Theo had the same intention as them, planning to grab his equipment back home and returning to the haven to increase his level. He hopes to reach level 35 before the training started. The schedule was pretty tight, but it wasn't impossible. Little did he know that someone was watching him from the school roof. She was the same old lady that followed the guys from the Lang family. After chasing them to the temple, she returned with disappointment since she didn't find him there. Well, I have found him now, so no need to look at the past. I should fulfill my promise now. Suddenly, her smile turned into a frown as she saw 5 people following Theo from the roof. They were also the same people from yesterday. I think I have a better plan for this. Her killing intent leaked a bit but disappeared right after she leapt off the roof, following those guys. It took him half an hour just to reach the haven until he came out of the Art Beats castle. Since he reached level 28 yesterday, he planned to go to the forest beyond the one he visited yesterday. It should be filled with monsters above level 25, giving him pretty good EXP points. Unaware of the fact he was being followed, Theo continued his journey like usual and put on his mask. This created a reaction among those who followed him. The group from the Lang family frowned as one of them asked, "Why would he wear a mask? Is he aware that we are chasing him? Or he doesn't want to get exposed?" "I think it's the latter." The captain narrowed his eyes. The previous report that came before he defeated young Master Lost was him being a level 7. Yet, he managed to surpass that and planned to go this deep. I assume he is above level 25, if not level 30, since he is alone. Won't this be bad for us, Captain? We should report it to Master immediately. The captain contemplated for a minute before shaking his head. Let's follow him for today. We will confirm his fighting ability and level today before giving the full report to Master. Besides, Master has given an order for us to break a few bones if we deem him too dangerous. With that condition, he will suffer when young Master Lost comes back to the academy. I understand. He acknowledged the decision while shrugging. It's not like he is that good to notice our presence. Tailing for a whole day shouldn't be too much of a problem. You are too lax. You might almost reach level 100, but we live in a world where we can't underestimate someone or we will end up dying. So, be serious about this. The captain shook his head helplessly. As he said, they had enough strength to cover their presence in front of Theo. Yet, who was the woman following them that they couldn't even detect? The answer would remain unanswered for a long time. Meanwhile, Theo kept going deeper and deeper while slipping past every single monster he found, not planning to waste his time against them since he thought it would be better for him to hunt in his destination instead of here. The tree became denser and the thick smell of leaves began to fill his nose. This was the true appearance of the rainforest. The swamp was just a part of the outskirts and couldn't reflect what was inside. Theo noticed the drastic change from the swamp to the rainforest. The foul smell was replaced by a cool breeze. Yet, it made him shiver for once as if his instinct warned him to stay focused. It seems this is not going to be an easy journey, muttered Theo while summoning his clone. At the very least, he wouldn't need to hand the weapon to his clone as they would walk together. Of course, yesterday was a great lesson for him as he quickly put on the disguise for his clone while having him carrying his bag since the weight wouldn't affect his movement. Theo held his spear while scanning left and right. His clone walked in front of him, so it could protect him. Because the number of trees had significantly increased, Theo needed to focus on spotting any kind of monsters lingering in this forest. Luckily, if one would think what the best thing they would find in the haven, it was the fact that most monsters had a quite big body. There was no monster with a small body like an ant, so they could focus on what they could see above the ground. The hidden danger only came from bushes and trees because they could emerge from there at any moment. The same applied to those that could change their skin color. Theo took a close look at every tree and bushes to make sure nothing was moving while walking forward. Sack. Sack. A noise other than the cracking noises from the dried leaves he stepped on echoed in his ears. He instinctively turned his head to the right while raising his spear. After turning in the mission yesterday, he already picked up another mission. It was to kill Leaf Rabbit and took their white fur. However, this one was a bit dangerous for people, considering the rabbit had a similar size to that on Earth. Coupled with their agility, this rabbit was hard to kill and might even bite him instead. Clone Theo walked toward the bush on his right side. Due to the shorter reach of the sword, it should be perfect for stopping any attacks from the rabbit. Meanwhile, the real him summoned his 2 magic bullets and held them for the moment the rabbit came out. Chew. A white rabbit suddenly leapt out of the bush and spun its body, trying to kick Clone Theo's face. Its fur was white and the eyes were black. If it were not for the green ears that looked like a tree leaf, he would mistake them for the one he found on Earth. He had prepared for it and raised his sword to slash the leaf rabbit. Surprisingly, the rabbit changed its position mid-air and kicked Theo's sword instead, going in another direction. The real Theo smiled and thrust his spear. The rabbit shouldn't be able to move during that time, so it should be perfect. Yet, the rabbit surpassed his expectation and spun its body a bit, allowing it to barely put its feet on the spear and launched itself to the top of Theo's head. The moment it fell down, Theo would surely feel the kick on his skull. Learning from his last mistake, he made another backup plan and released the magic bullets. I got you. He smiled. Chapter 35, Death. The magic bullet flew straight through the rabbit's stomach, killing it in one go. The rabbit fell behind him due to the momentum while Theo frowned. I used the magic bullet to the sky because the trees are high enough to cover someone's vision. Unless they are nearby or flying, they shouldn't be able to see it. But it's truly risky. I should use it toward the trees or ground instead. Theo shook his head in disappointment. He turned around and bent his knees, touching the rabbit's fur. A card with a rabbit's drawing fell off the corpse. Theo picked it up without hesitation. Leaf rabbit fur, F. Solid ingredients for fashion clothes. It has soft and durable characteristics that can last for a long time. Nice. Theo smiled and nodded. Meanwhile, the 5 guys had watched his actions and discussed their decision. This kid is dangerous to young Master Lost. We should kill him right now. Master's order is to keep this guy alive. We can't afford to do it. Then, should we break all his limbs and force him to open his mouth? That's the only way. His transformation is too dangerous. Coupled with how he used his skill, young Master's position will be in danger. No, he may lose in the near future. And if he continues this way, I'm afraid we can't touch him in the near future. Grand Gaia. They gasped as if realizing Theo's plan. He must have been hiding his real power this whole time and only properly used it recently. Roy break his limbs. He needs to stay in the hospital for a few months, so he has no chance to get into the competition and the young master doesn't need a rival. The captain ordered them as they walked together toward Theo, noticing the real problem. If Theo were able to make this kind of judgment this whole time, he had a big chance to get selected as one of the 6 participants since each grade could only have 2 people. By that time, it was impossible to touch Theo even if the head of the Lang family made a move himself. Theo sensed them coming, but they were already several feet away from him, surrounding him in 4 directions while one of them walked forward while cracking his fingers. Assassins? Theo's heart skipped a beat. On whose order? Lost. Wait, why are they here? Since when they actually followed me? I already put on my mask. Unless they started tailing me from. It was at this moment, Theo realized he FC'd up. You brat. You are not going to die today, but it doesn't mean you can leave without suffering. The man smirked. A set of black uniforms that only shows your eyes. What are you? Ninjas. Oh, come on. Don't impersonate someone's job. Despite knowing it was useless, Theo tried to buy time while searching for an escape route. However, the other guy seemed to feel nothing with Theo's provocation as he said, I wonder if you can scream as much as you talk. I see. That bastard lost, huh? Theo snorted while releasing his killing intent. Although they didn't shout back or whatsoever, Theo could see the slight change in their expression. They were disturbed when he said that, so it must be from Lost. Your mouth isn't qualified to utter his name. The guy started becoming agitated. It's freedom of speech. He has been bullying me this whole time, and when he suffers, he is relying on his family. No wonder he is a trashy young master. He can only rely on his family. Theo made a smug smile as if he wasn't scared of dying. Little did they know Theo's heart beat rapidly as cold sweat covered his back. You bastard. You don't know anything about the young master. The guy couldn't accept Theo's words and snarl out loud. Roy. The captain called his name, reminding him what they needed to do. Theo, on the other hand, found something wrong with his words. In that instant, everything clicked in his mind as he shook his head in disappointment. I see. It's not Lost, but someone higher. Either way, this is the deed of the Lang family. I have never even offended you, but you all have been targeting me this whole time. This is just bullying the weak. Theo complained to see their reaction again. When Roy was about to rebuke him, the captain shouted. Roy. Do your mission. Did you forget what you have been taught? And he is dangerous. Destroy his vocal cords. That sentence woke Roy up and regained his calm in one breath. He was the most hot-headed guy among them, so he almost forgot that they were not supposed to say anything during the mission. Usually, they went to a high-level mission to deal with someone powerful, so his guard was lowered a bit because he just needed to deal with a boy without any background. Even with Theo knowing a little bit of information, it wasn't like he had the ability to pursue this in a legal way, but it certainly would displease their master. Using the time he took to calm his heart, Theo turned around and ran as fast as he could. Roy suddenly appeared in front of him and tried to block him, but Theo leapt to the air while releasing his skill. Magic bullet. Boom. Did I get him? Theo thought but shook it off his mind as he needed to escape this encirclement first. As if reading his mind, Roy appeared right in front of him as he punched him to the ground while saying, No, you didn't. Bam. Theo was hit right on the face and crashed to the ground as the dust kicked up due to the magic bullet's explosion and his body. The 5 assassins waited for a moment but didn't hear anything from Theo for a minute. Did he die? Roy frowned and decided to check him, resulting in him walking closer to Theo. He waited for the dust to settle down so he could check Theo's condition. When he was about to duck down, Theo emerged from the smoke and slashed his sword downward, trying to split this guy into 2. Roy. Another assassin warned his teammate, albeit it was too late. The so-called Roy had not enough time to cast his skill, so he tried to rely on his strength and combat techniques alone, grasping the sword with both palms. Had Theo waited for another second, his plan would succeed. However, a blue light fluctuated inside the smoke that almost disappeared. It flew straight toward Roy's abdomen. Gah! Roy spat blood. The pain was there, but everything he could think was how? How could Theo use such a technique when he himself couldn't? Yet, that thought didn't last long as his grip loosened, allowing Theo to complete his swing. When Roy's body fell, he found another figure among the smoke on the ground and died with shock. Roy! The shout echoed again as he leapt toward Theo, punching his abdomen. However, Theo disappeared without any trace. Unknown to him, the blue light appeared again within the smoke, flying through the man's heart. Impossible. The man widened his eyes in surprise, finding Theo on the ground. Theo's figure rose from the ground and grabbed the sword with his left hand, looking at the remaining 3. The leader shivered when he saw this. His eyes were wide open and his teeth were clenching. This brat had known that he wasn't our opponent and pretended to be unconscious within the dust, then waited for us to approach and suddenly killed us by surprise. This kid. Is he really the same Theodore Griffith in the report? Chapter 36, Ants. Despite him killing 2 of them, it didn't change the fact that he was still in a dangerous situation. What should I do? His expression darkened when he realized something. I didn't realize that they were following me this whole time, so our difference was big. Just like a weaker person could kill someone more powerful with poison, but it's a trick that can only be used once. I Theo summoned his clone again as he passed the spear instead of the sword this time. Catch him. He must be using a skill to create a clone of himself, but the main body should be the one holding the sword. Be careful of his trick. No matter how high your level is, if you don't have a head or heart, you will die. The captain shouted and commanded the rest of his subordinates. When Theo heard that speech, he couldn't help but smile and look at his clone once. The captain obviously didn't let it pass and shout. No. There is a possibility that he can change position with his clone. Apprehend both of them. The two hesitated for a split second before going to separate ways. On the contrary, both Theos turned around and ran in a different direction to make the captain's words more believable. It was just a small gesture, but it was enough since Theo just killed two of their friends. If I can escape today, I will haunt the Lang family until they perish. Clone Theo laughed and shouted, using the ability he got from the upgrade yesterday to the fullest. They were attracted to that voice as the one following Clone Theo smirked and sped up. I see. You must be the real one. When he was about to strike Theo, his friend's voice echoed in his ears. Watch out. It turned out that the clone could speak, fooling them in that instant. Or it might be like what the captain said, Theo could switch position with his clone, albeit in a far smoother detail as they didn't notice it happened. Little did they know Theo actually used the same trick to kill the toad. By attacking the enemy from their blind spot with a powerful E-rank skill, he would be able to severely injure if not kill someone in one attack, allowing him to gain a massive advantage. However, Theo's move was read by the captain as he appeared between the two. His eyes were fierce as he struck the magic bullet, deflecting it to the ground. It's enough, you punk. The captain leapt toward Theo and grabbed his head before crashing it to the ground. Gah! Theo felt his skull was about to crack as that force alone created a small crater on the ground. His clone halted for a second and got apprehended by the other assassin. He quickly took a knife and hit the clone's thigh. It turned out that he had been chasing the clone this whole time as it disappeared, leaving only the spear behind. The reason he believed Theo was the one in front of him was due to things. First was his speech ability, while the second was his weapon. According to the information, Theo was a spear user, so if he needed to run, it would be better to have the weapon he knew the best. But it turned out to be a deception. Theo tried to play the mind game and managed to kill two elite rank assassins by taking advantage of their carelessness. Unfortunately for him, his luck ran short when the captain appeared and handled everything by himself. Theo might not know this, but they were just a bunch of trainees while the captain was the real elite, so everything would be useless when the captain made a move himself. After pinning him down on the ground, the captain fixed his posture before kicking Theo's abdomen, launching him to the air. Theo's body spun a few times before his back hit a large tree and stopped on its track. Gah! Theo spat a mouthful of blood. His consciousness became fuzzy and the pain made his body feel cold. His body was shaking as he lost control over them. In other words, Theo was FCK'd up. Ah! I have been trying to rely on my power, but I guess this is the end. The assassin said that I wouldn't die, but I will definitely suffer after this. I really wish my luck is higher, so when everything is over, I can still increase my power to have my revenge. It's nothing different from what I have undergone this whole time. Despite giving up, Theo's determination remained. He didn't want this to be the end of his career and died before finding his brother. Theo knew the only thing that could take him away from this situation was luck, but he had no knowledge in what form it would come or would they even come to him. The captain, on the other hand, walked toward him and grabbed his hair, lifting him up. You punk! How dare you kill my subordinates? I can't kill you, but it doesn't mean that I can't make you a disabled person. I will make you feel dying is better than living. As he was about to torture Theo, a breeze swiped the area, sending a chill down their spines as someone just landed behind them. She had long white hair tied into a ponytail. Despite her aged face, the way she held the spear looked like a warrior. Her hair fluttered due to the breeze, but more importantly, the wind suddenly stopped when she smiled. Unknown to them, they felt fear for the first time, their eyes intertwined as though an invisible hand choked their necks. Who are you? The one who chased Clone Theo shouted while pointing his sword toward her with his shaking hands. After 5 seconds, the answer had yet to come, so he clenched his teeth and leapt toward her so the latter didn't run away. However, the conclusion came in a sudden. The old woman raised her hand and slapped the assassin's head like it was nothing. There was no reaction or whatsoever, as if her slapping the guy was nothing but a fate. That slap turned out to be the most dangerous slap that the guy would ever get. It obliterated the head instantly as the blood splattered all over the floor while the body flew due to the momentum, landing only several feet away from them. The old woman shook her head and fixed her hair with the same hand that killed the assassin. She looked at them with a slight curve on her lips while saying, "Just get out of my way, ants." Chapter 37, Student. Just get out of my way, ants. After that sentence, her voice became calm and indifferent. Her gaze was collected and bored. Yet, the two assassins felt that they were doomed to die when their eyes intertwined. "I want that kid. Who are you?" The captain pulled out his sword, raising his stance. "Who am I?" The old lady smiled. "I'm just a passerby who happens to meet an unfortunate kid bullied by adults. So, I want to screw the adults by making them in his position, so they know what it feels to be helpless. You are strong, but are you sure you want to offend a big family just for this kid?" The captain tried to negotiate without mentioning his backing to test the water. "Big family? I don't give a SHT to your Lang family. Even if the head of your family here, he only has two choices, kneel or die." The old lady snorted as the spear on her hand glowed. The spear had a beautiful silver handle with rose patterns on its head and butt. The blade was half black, half green, becoming contrast to the silver color. The sudden action made these two panic as the trainee screamed out loud while trying to attack her. Unfortunately, he might be doing it for spite, but Theo wanted to have revenge for himself. He shot the assassin with his magic bullet, destroying his heart. "Oh!" Impressed by Theo's action, she smiled and walked closer to the captain. "TCH." The captain clicked his tongue and took out a flashbang and a smoke grenade, throwing it to the ground at the same time. Bang! A high-pitched sound echoed, followed by a disturbing ringing sound. Theo managed to protect himself from the flash by looking away, but he was too weak to lift his hand to close his ears, so he had a hard time opening his eyes due to the pain in his ears. At the same time, the smoke grenade masked the area with white smoke as he escaped with his fastest speed, knowing that the old woman was far stronger than him. Theo wanted to tell the old lady that if the assassin escaped, they both would be in trouble, but the pain stopped him. Seeing the resolve in his eyes behind the smoke, the old lady smiled and thrust her glowing spear to the right. The golden light surrounding the spear's blade flew and turned into a torrential shock wave. The trees were shredded into pieces while the ground was pushed back and created a huge half-circular trail on the ground. The moment the shock wave hit the captain, it burst him into pieces as his blood dyed the ground red. Because the smoke was still rising, the old lady gently waved her hand as the breeze once again appeared, blowing all the smoke away before kicking the smoke grenade away. "To point that spear at me." "Brat, do you want to die?" asked the old lady with her cold expression. "You do know that I just saved your life, right?" "No." Theo struggled just even to utter one word, so he couldn't really answer her. Feeling a bit interested in Theo, she grabbed something from her right pocket. It was a syringe filled with green liquid. Theo couldn't react as the old lady had injected that liquid into his body. However, he noticed the change immediately as the green liquid spread all over his body. His wound closed with a speed visible to naked eyes. Although it didn't refill his energy, it was enough for him to speak. After checking his vocal cord, he hurriedly explained with his hoarse voice. "I don't mean to be ungrateful, but I don't know your motive for helping me. You've admitted that you know their relationship with the Lang family, so it means that you have been tailing them or me. Hence, I know that this situation is not simple. Even if I am going to die now, I will die trying." Theo glared at the woman. It was the only clue he got from the woman, since it was a strange phenomenon to be saved by someone who knew their identities. She might know about it from the way they protected Lost's name, but it reinforced the fact that she didn't encounter them by chance. Instead, she had been tailing him even before they beat him up. Thus, Theo couldn't trust her just yet. The old woman should also know the fact that this was a test from Theo to know about the relationship between them and felt displeased about his ungrateful attitude. Yet, she made a big smile as if she found a treasure. "I like you, brat. Do you want to be my personal student? I will make you the strongest in the academy." Theo narrowed his eyes, wondering the purpose behind her words. "No need to think hard. I truly want you to be my student. You could consider the earlier performance a test from me to find your talent. It seems I haven't made a wrong decision." Despite knowing that you can't win against me, you still try to talk like a smart SS. You should just kneel and thank me since it will give you a bigger chance to survive. The old woman shook her head in disappointment. I know. But I know that you have an ulterior motive just by seeing your relationship with the Lang family and the medicine. There's no way that someone is like a saint and helps an unknown person like me. So I conclude that I'm not going to die. Good. I want to test you a bit more, but I will just let you go because I'm going to be your teacher no matter what. This is a fixed matter. The old lady harumphed. Besides, I have promised someone to take care of you. Someone. Theo furrowed his eyebrows and thought of people who cared about him. Unfortunately, they were only his late parents and missing brother. It was an obvious choice since his parents had died when he was a kid. You are related to my brother. Your brother? The old lady's eyebrows twitched. Ah, right. Yeah, I promised your brother to teach you. You are not related to him. Theo instantly got his answer from her reaction. However, the old lady changed her expression again, bent her knees and smirked. Right. Listen here, brat. You shouldn't take the conclusion too early. What if I faked my own reaction? Didn't you pretend to be unconscious earlier? Are you going to fall for your own trick? The old lady gently flicked his forehead. So, what is your answer? Will you become my student?